welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Riche of the MHRT Network. If we have anyone who's live in the chat, if they could please go ahead and leave a comment if you can hear me.
Can anybody if okay, so can you hear me, Steve? So I can't hear Richie. This is weird. Okay, now I can hear you, Richie.
Awesome. Let's try this again. All right. So, like any good podcast, there is going to be technical glitches, and that was ours. And in fairness, we have not had very many in the entire history of the show. So that's fantastic. I have 3 separate microphones. The one that I'm using right now is my backup. It's the one I used to use when I first started in the podcast space for Broncos talk.
Is that the one that can hear colors?
No, it's my son's got one upstairs that like moves around and crap.
Okay.
So anyways, we got an interesting show. We're going to go over a little OTA news for each of our respective teams. We got some team news for my Broncos, involving cell phones, arrests, court dates, and some other things. Which kind of occurred shortly after last week's show, but before this show. So I figure it was fitting to bring that up and kind of get into those discussions, and we'll go from there. We do have a Raiders guest here for you today. We'll be on here in just one moment. But DZ, how are you doing? How are things going with you and your team? And we'll go from there.
I'm doing fine. Summer's upon us. The weather's going to start getting crazy where I live. Thunderstorms, the heat, the whole nine. And then team-wise, I had to kind of dig, kind of like news. We had a lot of players, do their pressers, which is kind of fun because it's kind of the first time you get to hear them talk since they've been signed with the team. We had like Butch Berry talk. That's our new O-line coach. It was good to kind of hear his philosophy and, talking about his days in Denver. And then when he was actually on the defensive side of the ball and with Green Bay and back to O-line coach with Miami. Yep. And he's bringing that Miami system over to LA. So it was kind of good to hear him. And then we got to hear the 2 guards who are projecting starting, quotes. I like to quote unquote. And that's Cole Strange and Coyote Awasika. It's an interesting last name at left guard. But you can kind of see what they're doing with these guys. They're both, that low 300-pound, very athletic, very tall kind of guys, very smart, cerebral kind of type of players. Can kind of see what they're trying to get going. And, I was like looking at something. I was like, I know the Raiders are doing a whole new scheme. And then I was like thinking about the Broncos. And I'm like, okay, I know they kind of run that, that Kubiak Shanahan system. And then I was like, the Chiefs do as well. So I was like, damn. So all 4 teams in the division are going to be running some sort of zone scheme in 26, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because that was not the case these last few years.
No, it wasn't.
All different philosophies, though. Completely like Luke Getzey's philosophy with the Raiders going to be completely different. McDaniel's got his is a Shanahan style. You know what I mean? So it's going to be kind of fun if you want. Like when things are all said and done, I think like, next offseason, if you like, can look from like what's that I'm looking for from like a
Flip view.
Yeah, you can look from that view and see
Yeah.
how each philosophy plays out. It's going to be
Mhm.
kind of interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, sorry, just give me one sec. The dogs are scratching at the door.
Gotcha. Raider
But
Rebel.
we got Raiders Rebel in the house, who we will allow introducing himself and giving us an intro on both him and his team. And I will be back in just a second because my dogs are literally jumping at the door.
What's up, dude?
What's going on? What's going on? I'm your host, Raiders Rebel. No, but yeah, man, my team is absolutely horrible. We've been just trash in practice. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like,
Nah, man, it seems to be going pretty good. Kirk Cousins seems to be the fireball in the building. Cussing at the defense, yelling, getting everybody excited.
I think I heard something. Correct me if I'm wrong, too. He's something about like, did somebody ask Cousins if he was like a mentor to Mendoza or something?
Yeah.
Did he say something like he didn't see himself as a mentor? Like, do you know what I'm talking about? I just briefly.
He says like everybody's kind of equal in the building. He likes to refer to it as you got the older generation, the middle generation with Aiden O'Connell, and then the rookies. So yeah, he seems like he doesn't want to be that mentor guy, but he's just leading by example kind of thing. So yeah, it's been a different change. There's definitely been a different change. Everybody seems to be hyped. There's a lot of talk around this team, and if Kirk Cousins can come in and be that guy for however long it takes for Mendoza to be ready, or whoever it is, it should be fun. It should definitely be fun this year.
Before you popped in, I was telling Richie, I was like, I know that the Raiders and the Chargers were both implementing new offensive schemes this year going into 26, and I was like looking at the Broncos. I was like thinking, I'm like, hang on, I know they run this system, and then I was like looking at the Chiefs. I'm like, oh wow, so all four teams in the division are going to be running some sort of zone concept, which I thought would be pretty interesting.
Yeah,
all different philosophies, though.
I think that'll help all the defenses, right? I mean, if you're practicing against the zone all the time, then
yeah, like who is it? I think the Chiefs. Is it the Chiefs? They run a lot of bootleg stuff like that. But then there's also stories I read, and I know Richie's got on mute. He's doing his dinner. There was like a brief article I kind of read about the Broncos in 26 wanting to run more 22 personnel. And for everybody in the chat that doesn't know what that means, that's 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, and 1 wide receiver, even with that stacked wide receiver room. So you could see like, RJ Harvey.
Yeah, but why though?
Well, they ran some of that last year, and it worked really well for them.
Yeah.
And then so with that 2 tight end set, that could actually be Adam Prentice, I believe, at fullback, and then maybe like Waddle or whoever. Just pick your poison for that play.
No, but you could do it a different way too. So you could go a combination of say J.K. Dobbins and Coleman.
Your new guy?
The new guy as the running back there. You could also do Prentice and Coleman or JK as the 2 running backs in that scenario as well. And then the other thing that you have as an option, I was just on Mile High Monsters. Mike Carmelini came in here last show. It's just on his pod just before this one here. And we were talking a little Bo Nix, backup quarterback, that kind of stuff and whatnot on the Broncos. As you well know, DZ, I am basically the Broncos realist. I'm literally the most harshest critic of my own team that might exist in the podcast space. So when I'm looking at kind of where my team's at, I actually think that 22 personnel or even 12 personnel or even 13 personnel, actually, if I'm going to be honest, is a great configuration for the Broncos offense, as opposed to try to go like 11 personnel or some variant thereof. Because 11 personnel is your classic 3 wideout set, and then you have 1 running back in the back, and you got your standard config, your standard setup of a team in today's modern NFL. But what I think the Broncos are better suited for is 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, or 3 tight ends, 1 running back, and then like a wideout.
Well,
and because we're just really well suited for that. You have guys like Caleb Lohner, you have guys like Nate Adkins. So, like, again, you have an option of running a tight end who can play the role of fullback, but who can also catch the ball. And so you have this like wicked versatility within a lot of these players out there that can step in and play different roles. And then also Dalen, our new tight end, the guy that we drafted.
I thought you were talking to somebody in the chat. I was like, who?
No. He's another kind of Nate Adkins kind of clone style guy who is a fullback, tight end, blocking guy, kind of in that combo platter role. Basically everything but a big wide receiver. Although he can still pass catch, he's just not his primary function on the field. And so when you have this sort of versatility within your roster, within the tight end room and wide receiver room and running back room, you can play these sorts of personnel sets and really throw modern NFL teams off because they are not practicing in base defense very often anymore. They're practicing in their nickel and dime sets the majority of the time as opposed to base.
Yeah,
I think we're going to be in a lot of those scenarios too.
I think most defenses are asking the coordinators to just like, hey, they work together. I see what you're saying, but they're like there to help each other out. So it's like, hey, you're going to be a nickel. I'll be in this. Like, I'll run this. And the Chargers put out something kind of cool. They did a mic'd up McDaniel thing. They just put it out today, which, by the way, he's growing on me. He is growing on me. Like, he's hilarious. I don't know if you guys knew, he's like best friends with there's a comedian, Dan Soder. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's semi big, not really big, but they've been like best friends since 7th grade. And he was on Dan Soder's podcast like last week or after our show, and I listened to it, and it was pretty hilarious. But yeah,
starting to rub off on him is what you're saying.
Yeah, he's kind of dry in interviews. He's super like, what the fuck, like super awkward kind of thing. And then, but on the mic'd up, he was hilarious of how he was talking to the players and everybody. But yeah.
So I think our coach Clint Kubiak is a little bit like that. He has a little bit of personality, but it doesn't really show. And all you hear from everybody in the building, players, coaches, is he's all ball. He's all ball.
All business.
I think that's what we've needed for a long, I could say long for the next 3 weeks, long time in this organization. So definitely a great change of pace. But yeah, man, we've been looking pretty good.
I think we should also talk that unfortunately we're going to be seeing a lot more of Mahomes. I don't know if it just broke like just before our show, an hour or something. He signed some like crazy deal. I think he's going to be like the first player to reach
2033.
He's going to be like the first player to get like $500,000 guaranteed. Not $500,000, $500 million, 500 million, I guess.
Didn't they just do that like a couple years ago? Sign him to like a 500.
I don't know.
No, it was not guaranteed.
Oh,
Rebel, the kicker there is. So I know exactly what you're thinking, and I'll expand upon it. He signed a $500 million deal, but it was not guaranteed. It was like most like 3/4 or a third of the way guaranteed or 2/3 of the way guaranteed. What he just signed today was an extension like that pushed his money further, like a 2-year extension, but then it added a whack of guaranteed money in there for him.
See, I got it.
Which I think you're right, DZ. It'll make him as the first quarterback in NFL history to end up with $500 million guaranteed.
I got Spot Track.
That's insane. So they're guaranteeing him all that money till
Yeah. So here's like the
33 or
stats.
something. That's insane.
8 years, 8 years, 504.75 million base value, 522.25 million max value. 4 years guaranteed at sign, additional early vesting guarantees. Mahomes' previous contract had 6 years, 265. So it's like almost doubled his.
Just give him stock in the organization.
I mean,
man, that's insane.
So he's now on the books for at least
coming
60.
off that knee injury. Like, you never know. He says he's ready, but forward movement's one thing, and like you said earlier, they do a lot of bootlegs, and how much bootleg are you going to be doing with the guy? Because coming off that ACL, moving side to side takes a little bit longer than a couple months or whatever it's been for him. No matter if you think you're Superman or not, or how great your doctors are. I mean, you can ask anybody that's had that injury, and they're like, bro, it's close to 2 years before you're 100%. And not to wish that on anybody, but man, I hope they don't put him out there, if he's not ready, or he forces himself and he ends up in, kind of like the Crosby situation that we got, where you can't get the guy off the field, and he's just detrimental to himself sometimes. Like, you can't take him off, whether he's hurt or not. He wants to play.
He's not getting out of his own way.
Yeah, and
he's not getting out of his own way.
They did bring over Justin Fields, though, right?
Yeah, they have Justin Fields.
He's serviceable. Like that, I thought that was going to be like the plan. Like, is like you would probably see Justin Fields like a couple games before Mahomes, but from everything I'm hearing, like, he's on track to play week 1. So
week 1,
yeah, I don't know who they're scheduled. I don't know who they open up with. I don't know.
They open up with the Chargers, don't they, on Monday Night Football, or the Broncos?
No, not
the Broncos.
Oh, probably Richie would probably know.
Yeah, I think it's the Broncos on Monday Night Football.
That sounds probably right. Yeah,
I mean, that's Justin Fields on Monday Night Football, and they have 8 primetime games or something. 7? Somebody.
The Rams have the most. I
think.
The
Rams have the most with 8, but they're up there, I think, though, too. So
let me ask Richie. Yeah, Richie, do you guys open up with the Chiefs this season?
We do.
Ooh, so this should be an interesting game.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that is Monday Night Football. If
it'll be the first time I've ever rooted for the Broncos defense.
All right. I hope they both have fun. Let's just say that.
I hope they just don't, even though it's a rivalry, I just hope they don't rush this, rush him out there, because that's detrimental to his career if he goes out there not, fully prepared. Just
Monday Night Football.
He believes he's ready. Like, Monday Night Football is going to be crazy. What's it been like? It's been less than 7 months.
Dude, so I mean, I did see a picture, and I mean, you can really not really go off pictures, but their left tackle, I think he was like that rookie. He was a rookie last season, and I think I don't know if I saved it, probably didn't, but he looks jacked. Like, he does not look like a left tackle. I don't know if anybody else saw that on X. The Chiefs, I forget his name. He doesn't look like he doesn't look like a typical lineman. He looks like a trimmed, like, he looks like a D end. That's what he looks like. Kind of light, but I don't know. Like I said, they run a lot of zone there.
Is that the one they drafted last year?
Yeah.
Yes.
From what is that?
They got him like on a deal too.
Josh Simmons, is that it? The left tackle?
Yep.
Yeah.
There was like some picture that came out about him just like this week, and I was like, oh my God, look at this guy. He looks like a specimen.
Yeah, they got a couple of those guys over there that in the late rounds, the last couple of years, didn't they draft a tackle not this year, but the 2 years prior to that?
Yeah, they did. They got a couple guys that they've been trying to rebuild a little bit of their O-line for.
So, yeah, if one of those guys.
The one thing that they got to worry about, though, with KC is the size of their tackles and just the light weight of the offensive line room. Is like, so here's an example, right? You have an outside linebacker in, say, like Jonathan Cooper. He's a fairly light guy. And so he would probably get blocked up pretty well by a guy like Simmons with the Chiefs. But the outside backers that guys like that typically struggle with are like the Khalil Macks or even a guy like Dondre Tillman, who's
or
with
bull
the
rushing
Broncos.
guy.
No, but like the thicker but fast, twitchy guys, like the combo platter dudes that are kind of rare air. Like there's not that many of them. By the way, Crosby's a little on the lighter side, so I wouldn't necessarily put him, and he's not like light, but he's on the lighter side based on his height. So I wouldn't necessarily put him in that same category. But like guys like Khalil Mack that are in those outside linebacker rooms that are kind of stockier, stronger, kind of like lower gravity guys. Those
Will
like
Anderson too type.
Yeah. Those like lightweight, twitchy left tackles struggle huge with dudes like that just because the body types are a mismatch. Like they're just they're just not well aligned, right?
Those guys with arms for legs.
Seriously, some of these dudes are specimens, man.
Golly, man, freaks of nature. That's what I call all these guys. I
think he meant the guys with legs for arms. But yes.
That's what I mean.
Legs for arms. Yeah, I agree. But I mean, some of these dudes are massive. Yeah, some of these dudes are massive. Like it's just ridiculous. But those guys there are the challenges for the light, lanky guys, right? And then the other problem that you have is like some of the smaller centers. And by the way, DZ, back to your point on the outside zone, inside zone, even the combo power style running game or just blocking games. If you have lighter weight linemen, like guys that are not kind of like freaks where they don't have like the height, size, and speed combination that are just kind of like the real true athletic freaks, you then end up with a bit of a challenge. Is that when you're trying to play the power game against an AFC North type team that's basically got D linemen that are the size of a house, and I mean that like almost literally. Some of these dudes are like 6'6" and 340 or 350 or 360. Some of these dudes are massive. And those lighter weight interior linemen do not block up well against these real beefy, strong guys. They just get bulldozed because
you don't want to be in third and long. We'll just say that. You want that ball needs to come out quick.
Yeah, exactly.
Or your quarterback's, he's scrambling, running for his life or something. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Those third and longs get a little sketchy with those light offensive lines.
But even nowadays, you got some of these tackles coming out that are running 5 flats. So when you got quarterbacks that are running 4.4s, 4.9, rolling them out of the pocket is kind of scary nowadays. Like these guys, man, you got some of these, defensive linemen that are close to 300 pounds and they run, under 5 flat. So
right, yeah.
No, forget close to 300 pounds. What about the dude with the Eagles? What's the guy? What's the
Carter?
Or
Davis or
Davis?
Jordan Davis?
Yes, Davis.
Yeah.
Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis ran a 4.75 or 4.85. I think it was a 4.75.
He's a freak, dude.
Jordan Davis is 6'6", 355 pounds, somewhere in that range, and the dude ran like a 4.75.
Was he the guy that I think before he came out? I don't know if it was him, but it might have been. Where he's like in the pool in his weight,
and he jumped out. He jumped
out of the pool.
Yes, that was him.
Just
6'6", 355 pounds.
Rebel?
I know exactly the video you're talking about. I about fell out of my chair. I was like,
and that was like
there is no way this man jumped out of a pool with his size. Literally jumped out of water. I mean, the force behind that is
freaking insane, dude.
Filthy, just filthy.
But the point is that so you got a guy like that who is that size, who can run that fast in game against a quarterback who runs slower.
Yeah,
I think I hate to say it because I can't stand the Eagles, but I think they're going to have a bounce back season. I think they were banged up last year. I think they're going to have a bounce back season, which, I mean, that's good competition for the Rams. I don't know if the Rams play them during the regular. And they got Saquon Barkley too over there, and they're going to be a dangerous team this year, Philadelphia.
getting to the point with these defensive linemen that all teams are going to have to start running like 32 personnel, three backs in the backfield and 2 tight ends just to make sure that these guys don't get to your quarterback. Like
my Chargers signed a guy this offseason who he's been in the league for a while, Dalvin Tomlinson, and he was with the Cardinals last year. And when we signed him, I was like, oh, okay, that's just going to be our nose tackle replacement, good, solid vet signing. And he spoke, and I guess his intrigue of coming over was that they are not going to keep him at a 3 tech. They're going to have him play 5 tech, which I was like, like that's a big boy. So you're going to be having him. He's going to be moving all over the D line, which I guess he did that with Cleveland and the Giants, prior. Like I said, he's kind of long in the tooth, 10 years. But 6'3", 335 pounds, that's kind of standard these days, but he's very smart, cerebral. I like it. Move these guys around, man. Keep O-lines guessing.
Minter did that, though. Minter was moving your guys around.
Well, this is what, this is in Chris O'Leary's defense. I mean, which, like I said, I have no clue if it's completely different, the same shades of this or that. You know what I mean? But yeah.
I'm hoping for Lackey Tassie to pop off. This guy,
massive dude,
6'8", what is he, like over 350 pounds or something?
Yeah,
and moves like he's 250. So
Kenna, the other Raider guy, like he did not stop talking about. He calls him Lackey Tassie or whatever, but I mean, it's gonna be fun, like seeing the clips or him in preseason, right, with this regime.
Yeah, he'll move from the offense to the defense, so he knows a little bit about what they're trying to do over there, and how they're trying to control guys on the defensive side. And now he gets to jump back over to the defensive side because he started out over there. So I think he's only 22 years old, a rugby player,
dude too, right?
Man, the sky's the limit for this young man. Even if he just gets preseason and doesn't see the field this year, right? It's still, which I don't see how he can't see the field, because as big as he is, you got to put him out there. Like he's moving your center and closing both A gaps. he is the A gaps.
6'6", 373, dude. Samoa.
He's just mammoth. And when you see him out there, hitting the sleds and moving the sleds, I feel sorry for those sleds. I feel sorry. He's just like they're nothing to him. So I can imagine what he's going to do to some of these guards or a lot of these centers.
He's going to blow up some O-lines. If he gets his technique down, he's going to blow up some O-lines.
Disrupting a lot of backfields.
Yeah. At some point, you have to look at whether or not the guy is going to click or not as your team. You want to try to give him an opportunity to get on the field and shine. So I think this could be his. If I show out, this new regime will probably play me and keep me. And so if he doesn't capitalize on this, honestly, he could just be a trade bait option for you guys if he doesn't actually do something, because your team might just say, he's not going to do it for us, but maybe we can get something for him from another team that thinks they can do something with, the athleticism, size, height, speed, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, not a bad plan either for your team if he doesn't actually do something for you.
If it's not, somebody will be willing to, at least give up something for him. But I just don't see how anybody stands a chance in front of this young man. At 22 years old, I would love to see what he bench presses, because it's probably just ridiculous. Because some of these offensive linemen are throwing up 33 reps at 225, and I bet that's probably nothing to him.
Yeah. Dude,
so I did want to just quickly bring up the super chat. Jaroko, thank you, appreciate it. Look. At this point in this year, I do think at some point Broncos country needs to come to the realization that we're no longer shocking people with good play. People kind of expect the Broncos to be good. However, I will agree with the super here in that if you look at the national media and how they're framing the Broncos this season, they are certainly not being kind in how they're framing the Broncos season. They're basically saying, yeah, but, and I understand some of the reasons for their criticisms. I do. I kind of understand some of it. But at some point, when your quarterback has won this many games this early in his career, you got to start giving the quarterback some credit for the level of play, because even with great coaching, and Sean Payton, as much as he rubs folks the wrong way, is a great coach. You got to give credit to the quarterback on the field, because we've already seen how these coaches versus quarterback battles work. 9 times out of 10, the coach is found to be lesser than the accolades are, and the quarterback often goes on to do pretty darn well normally to other teams when they move on, if they have won a lot. So I think we need to give Bo Nix a little bit more credit than we have been seeing, at least in the national media, if I'm going to be honest.
Are they giving Bo Nix? Is this about Bo Nix, or is this about?
They're slandering him. No, they're downright disrespecting him.
I would have thought I would have not thought it was Bo Nix. I would have thought it had to do with the 1-score games and the strength of schedule you guys have this year, especially starting off.
Sure.
That's why I think the media. That's my perception on why I think the media is not hyping up the Broncos as much, is because as a fanalist, just like everybody else, and talking about the Broncos, like, to me, they were probably one of the most complete teams. Didn't need much this offseason, and they brought over Waddle, a dog, at the wide receiver, just excellent wide receiver, and they had a decent draft. And you really only needed to replace one player, and that was your interior D-line guy, right?
But if you look at the draft analysts and stuff, they're basically saying that the Broncos didn't draft very well. They're saying that
you can't tell about drafts.
No.
This is what I don't get.
100%. The question actually isn't, did you draft really well this year? The question is, did you bring in, and do you have enough pieces on your roster to properly compete this year with the guys that you brought back? And moreover, did you address some weaknesses and improve your team in the offseason? I think that the Broncos offense, if that's their concern, which was seemingly what most of these analysts and stuff in the national media were claiming, that the Broncos offense was stagnant. Well, if you're going to say that on the one hand, you got to give credit for the Broncos to bringing in Waddle. You got to give credit to the Broncos for bringing in a couple extra linemen to bolster their offensive line even further, which, by the way, was already a positional group of strength, generally speaking, when you looked at how we played. And then in addition to that, we also brought in Coleman, who was one of the more complete running backs in the draft this year when it came to pass protection, which is typically one of the things that most running backs truly struggle with. Like, it is a legitimate difficult thing for running backs to get the right block and read the right move and that sort of thing. And Jonah Coleman, that was his strength in college, which is very rare. Like, it's just not one of those things that college running backs pride themselves on. So
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say so my point is, I understand maybe where some of their critiques may have been from where the Broncos were last year, but I think it's a mistake and frankly malpractice for some of these national media folks to not actually give credit. Maybe it won't be successful, and that I'm willing to at least agree that it's a possibility. But to not give any credit for the Broncos to actually address the offensive pieces that they actually did this offseason, I just think is absolute malpractice on their part for not actually giving credit where credit's due to the Broncos for doing the things that they're then crediting 6 or 7 other teams in the NFL that they did in the offseason for the same types of moves that the Broncos made, but they're just discounting what the Broncos did, and then they're giving credit to the other teams.
Yeah, I don't understand the hate on Bo Nix. I mean, you look at his rookie year, he had 3,775 yards with 29 touchdowns and 12 interceptions with a 93.8 rating, right, and a 66.3 completion ratio. That's as a rookie. That's a rookie coming in. Yeah, you were drafted in the top 10, but come on, man. The kid, played a lot of football in college. He's very smart. He's mobile enough to move the pocket. He doesn't panic, too much and make a lot of big mistakes. Now, you'd like to clean up the 12 interceptions, but then last year, same numbers. He had almost 4,000 yards, 3,931 yards, 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions with an 87.8 quarterback rating and a 63.4 completion ratio. I'll take that on the Raiders any day of the week for the last 10 years. I mean, come on, that's Derek Carr numbers right there.
So you said something, Raider Rebel. You said something that I'm gonna kind of talk about. Tamar was like, this kind of goes along, ties in. He's like, I was watching Media Day. Damn, we have Mendoza, Genty, Bowers, Linderbaum, and Max all on the same team. I mean, take Max off. That's because that's the defensive side, right? But I was like, that is a hell of a young group of weapons. You can throw Mayer in there, throw Naylor in there. And I was like, all that ties together, offensive line. The O-line has to work. This is one of the reasons outside, you could say, Sean, I mean, look, dude, football's the ultimate team sports, a chess match, right? Everything has to work, right? But the offensive line has to work. And, a good system, Sean Payton's system, Broncos have a good offensive line. So Bo Nix is flourishing behind that, and they just got him another weapon, and we should all be like, all of our defenses should be, put on notice because that's another, elite weapon, in my opinion, that goes over there. But yeah, if for the Raiders tomorrow, if that O-line can just be, a slightly average, because look, both Raiders and Chargers offensive lines last year were historically bad. If they can become average, I mean, the sky's the limit offensively for both teams, especially.
The only thing I will add to that, and this is kind of important. Oh, sorry, I there's some lag on my side. I thought you'd finished. The only thing that's important there is the Chargers under your head coach. You've now had multiple years, so you've been able to solidify a system, and the pieces that fit, and the pieces that don't.
Yeah.
Under Sean Payton, he knows what fits, he knows what doesn't, and now it's a matter of moving a couple pieces out and moving new pieces in that fit a bigger picture and a. I mean, at this stage here, I think it's fair to say after last season,
laying the foundation,
season,
man.
You've already got the foundation built. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The Raiders right now are in kind of like Sean Payton year one, to bring it back to a Broncos analogy where I was at a couple of years ago, right? Which is, you got your rookie quarterback. You've got a system that you think is probably going to work with, the guy that's in the room there running things for you. He's at least got
Getsy.
Yeah, he's at least got a system that is shown to be functional at the NFL level, at a high level, which is great. Now, the question is, who on the team meshes and who does not mesh? That's the biggest question. There is no question that there's talent on the roster.
Oh, yeah.
That list is impressive, like, for sure. But some guys play well with other guys, and some guys don't play well with other guys. So I'm just going to throw a name out there, by the way. I mean nothing by it. I'm just throwing darts and just kind of giving an example. Let's say Genty and Bowers get along well, but let's say your younger guys on the roster that are behind them that need to be brought in to like spell the top tier talent. Let's say there's a clash between the second tier guys and the top tier guys. That can have a tremendously negative impact on your team because those top tier guys need rest too. Otherwise, they're going to get hurt. Yep. And so you need to have a group of guys on your roster that are willing to come together and mesh together as a complete roster and a complete team. And if you do have that on your roster now, which is yet to be seen, and by the way, totally within the realm of possibility that you have that in the building today, if that happens, the Raiders will be a dangerous team this year, and the rest of the league needs to take notice. Now, you also run the risk of the exact opposite being true, which is you have like 5 or 6 pieces that look great, and you can just literally point at the handful that are not fitting in well. And that's a possibility too.
I think we've already had that. I look at this offensive line and I looked at where they were before the coaching staff last year came in, and I look at the same offensive line at where they were, with Antonio Pierce as head coach taking over. And it's not the players, it's not a personnel problem. I know we need depth at a lot of key positions, but we've added that depth, and I don't think the depth is the biggest problem right now. I think it's what we're getting. We're getting coaching. And like you said, maybe the younger guys don't mess with. I don't feel that it will ever be allowed in this building. Clint Kubiak is straightforward, to the point, no nonsense. It's pretty much it's not an ultimatum like that, but it sounds to me like it's my way or the highway. You either do shit like I tell you, or bye, right? And we haven't had that in a minute, right? And it's it's already showing. All the reporters say the same thing. It's all business. He's not trying to waste nobody's time. He's already making sure that the leaders and all the guys that have done interviews said he installed day one before they even got to OTAs or anything in the building. This is a player-led team. This is your team. I'm just here to coach it and put you in the right direction. I don't play on Sunday. That's up to you guys. And I can't be out on the field putting guys in position. I need my veterans to take leadership role. And I think that's been huge for this organization, because you have guys like Eric Stokes. You have guys like Jeremy Chin. You have guys like Thomas Booker. Max Crosby has flipped a whole nother level. The guy's packing on weight since he hasn't been able to, use his knees. He's got a different mindset of he doesn't have to be out there. He's inviting rookies to his home to watch basketball games, and finals. And he's taken a whole different kind of leadership role. And that's something we haven't had in this building. And I could say 20 years, right? Since Charles Woodson was here, since guys like Lincoln Kennedy was here, guys on linebackers on a leadership role like Greg Beekert, and guys like just history guys of when this team was good and gelled, and there was a direction of where we were going. Everybody knew the direction, and if you weren't bought in on the direction, you weren't going to be here. You're not going to be here. You're not going to play. You're not going to get on the grass. So the culture in this building is way different. I've been a fan my whole life. I'm 51, right? I've seen it. I've studied it. I'm every draft I'm doing the same thing right now. The last 3 years I've been doing YouTube, so it's a lot, it's a lot more heightened, and I got to learn a lot more and pay attention to a lot more things. So, I haven't seen it like this. And since I can remember, like when I was like 8 years old, and, there was guys like Tom Flores coaching, and it was discipline. The team was physical. They played for each other. There was no guys saying, I want a gold jacket and I want to be a Hall of Famer, right? And I want this and I want this. It's not, we don't have that in the building. And Max Crosby's even haven't heard him talking about, I want to be great, or, I want to do this. And now it's like, I need to help these guys behind me. If I want to succeed, I need to bring these guys along. So the culture here is different. The players are different. The mentality, the mindset, the leadership role. I mean, the leadership role. Basically, it was Max Crosby led team. Now you have guys like Quay Walker in his interview today. He said, they're pushing me to be a leader on the field, pushing me to be a leader in the locker room. And that's something I've been waiting for since I've gotten the NFL. So you got guys that are hungry for what we're giving them, right? And I think that's a recipe for win. And I don't want to say win now because people will get, upset, but there's a lot of teams that come in and change cultures like that and win now, right? Yes, we're in one of the toughest divisions in football, if not the toughest division, but we have a coach that has a plan, a structure, and if you're not bought in, like I said, you're not going to be here. And in the past, you've got guys that were just given positions, right? I brought in this guy. Last year, it was Geno Smith at the quarterback position, right? Pete Carroll brought in his quarterback, and no matter how bad he was, he would not pull the plug.
Yep.
And it cost him his job. It cost us another season, but it got us a first-round pick, and it got us a coach that had been to a Super Bowl.
See, there's ways to look at positives. You could spin it.
Yeah.
Look, you guys whooping on us that 63 to whatever. You guys made a mistake.
With Aiden O'Connell?
Because guess what? We got Jim Harbaugh and a new GM now because of that. So
Yeah,
Look,
so
we could have been
everything
stuck with
happens
those
for
other
a
guys.
reason,
Yeah,
right?
man.
Everything happens for a reason,
But
and
you know,
have to evolve in the NFL.
everything you just said, Raider Rebel, is things that Richie and I, and even like Nav or whoever else was on, we talked about this. We saw this coming. We were like, we saw, with Telesco short term there, his brief period there, we saw like the players that got in were like, these are special talents just falling in your lap because you guys have had these high draft picks, right?
High drafts.
And then you brought in Spytek from Tampa Bay, who that was a really good organization under Brady and with I think it's Bruce Arians and guys like that.
And his time with the Eagles and the Broncos, all won Super Bowls.
So
while
you
he
just
was in the building.
think about the organizations he's been with, right? He's bringing that over to the Raiders. So you see that we're starting to see that. We're like, okay, and then I thought Pete was going to do it. I was like, wow, I did not see that happen, right? And Gino was having success. Gino did have success before coming over the Raiders, and both of those guys came crashing down. It was bizarre to watch, but this is NFL thing. Strange things happen, and then seeing them hire Kubiak, right? Hire Kubiak's son, or that, and then bring over the OC they brought over, and you're just like seeing the players they brought over in free agency, and then the draft. You're just like, okay, man. And this is a term that Richie and I have said. There's adults in the building now, and this is
a direction.
There's a direction.
You can see it's all of that.
And, that's actually what I said one of our earlier shows. It's not a problem I have with the Raiders, but it's clear in the Raiders organization right now that you are no longer just basically saying, "Oh, shiny," and then going and get it. You're literally saying, "Here is a plan. Here is the steps in the plan that we need to execute within this season." And you can literally see the roster and the team and the GM and the coach just going down the checklist. Yep. I'm glad
y'all see it too.
Now,
I mean, dude, for a while it was just like every year, every off season it was like Ice Cube, lowriders, and yelling Raiders. And I'm like, no offense to Raider fans, I was like, this is the dumbest shit ever because it's the same result every season. It's just like 4, 5, 6 games or whatever. I'm like, you guys can scream that and do this, try to relive the 90s in LA all you want. And then I saw how this offseason was construction. I'm like, okay, now they're playing. They're in the league. This is big ball. Now they get it going. Now all 3 other teams, the Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs, we all need to go. Like, this isn't going to be a gimme anymore. Now we're competing.
So I think before we brought in all these guys trying to plant seeds, but I think we just planted them in the desert next to cactuses and didn't try to water anything. You know what I mean?
Now it's a good.
Now we're bringing in guys that we're planting our seed. We're bringing in these young guys and we're developing them. We're keeping them in the building. And the main thing that I've heard out of this entire camp has been coaching. Everybody says coaching. I've never, and everybody knows who Hondo Carpenter is, and everybody knows how he is, right? Yes, but he said, as long as he's been in the NFL, he's saying, I've never been around a team or reported on a team that has had so many coaches coaching these players. They're taking the questions, they're answering the questions. They have guys that have been there, done that, and guys that are not just coaches, are not just assistant coaches, they're teachers of the game. So you can bring in these young guys, and we have one of the youngest teams in the NFL. So having that, and then like I said earlier, with Kubiak making these, telling these veterans, what I need you guys to do. So every position group has not just one, but 1 or 2 guys that are taking that role on a young team, and they're just feeding into these young guys and finally developing. I mean, I think that's been our biggest problem is, like you said, the shiny new toy. You go out and spend $140 million on Christian Wilkins, and the guy plays 5 games and never sees the field again.
Dude, I think we've all done something.
What about Devontae Adams on your team, right? You got a guy that didn't really fit what you had in the building, right?
Or the Devontae thing. I mean, you had the core unit of a guy that knows how to win, to get people to to develop around him, and then you got it to the point where he just didn't want to be involved no more because he's seen like the outside scene that how it was going. It was going downhill instead of uphill, right? So yeah, you bring in guys, you trade draft picks, and then you trade a first and a second round for Devontae. He has, I think, the best year of his career, the first year with Derek Carr, and Derek Carr as well. And then and then
you blow it up. And then
you fire the head coach and you bring in an intern for, and it's been one of the quotes that's been stuck in my head that I keep thinking of, and I don't know, I fell asleep last night dreaming of it, is Colin Cowherd said 2 years ago, the Raiders are a circus at a high school football game in a high school parking lot. That's what it is. All the dudes in the building are the leaders of a circus. And I was very upset when he said that. I was like, man, that's horrible. But now seeing the way this team is run and its structure and the deliberate practices, and everybody knows, what they're trying to do. There's no wasting time. If you're going from, one install to the next install, there's nobody taking their helmet off and, walking over to get a drink. Hold on, coach, I'm coming. Nah, these guys are somebody's going to take my job. Somebody's going to take my job. Right. So you have, you have that in the building where there's competition, but you also have guys that are bought in, right? And I haven't seen so many players bought in. And I can wrap up last year in a nutshell of what went wrong, right? Max Crosby everybody knew was not happy and probably wanted out last year. They brought in Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll convinced him, I've won 10 games. This is a win now. And I think after the first week or two, or, the first game they won, but then by week 2 or 3 or 4, I think Max Crosby just kind of shut out on the season. It was like, man, this is not, I should have got out now, right? And I think when your leader in the building is coming in, not with that energy, like, hey, we can win, we can do this, I think the whole team just fell apart.
I think there's a lot of players, Rebel, that on like a lot of really elite players on teams around the league that they just see how their organization is ran, and one of them kind of comes to mind is Myles Garrett with the Browns.
Yeah,
they sign those big money deals, and then there's like, I don't know how he got out of there. I have a feeling that he had something to do with this. Like, hey man, like I heard they're interested in me. Like they do all this backroom dealing kind of stuff, but I don't want to say Max did that. I mean, if that's what you're hinting at, but you kind of kill the spirit a little bit, right? When you just see like, dude, I'm busting my hump every game, dude, 4 quarters, and what is it getting me?
Here, playing 100% of the snaps and it's doing nothing. But yeah, there was Mark Davis came out and said at the end of the season that Max Crosby called him up. They went and had lunch, and he said, I can't do this no more. Like, I need to go somewhere else and
regroup.
Spread my wings and let the condor fly, right? And it turned out that the grass was not as green on the other side as he imagined, and I think it kind of put a new perspective into this is where I need to be. This is where I should.
He lucked out, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, because that would never happen in the NFL, right? There's not. I mean, that says a lot about Mark Davis and this organization evolving, also, because there's not too many organizations where a guy is going to say, "Look, I know we have a tight relationship and all that, but I've given 7 years, and it's the same thing every year, and I need to go, see what's on the other side," and that didn't work, and then you just get brought back and welcomed with open arms. Like, there's not too many organizations that would do that. So
it's probably since Derek Carr is probably being his best position he's been in a long time.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
You have
Rebel.
You have everything.
There's something that's Rebel. I got something that's bothering me about the situation. Mark Davis, when he's actually put in a position when he needs to make choices and decisions, I truly think generally does quite well for the most part with your team. I think he's always got like a good head on his shoulders, makes good sound decisions, or at least tries to in certain circumstances with information that he's got in front of him. My issue is that he did right by Max Crosby, made a good decision by listening to his star player, allowing him to then go to another team, but then also welcoming him back with open arms and not saying a word until Max said something, which I think shows a lot of class and character. My only issue with Mark Davis is that he shows all of these stacked really sound decisions on the one side, but then he can't find a barber to cut his hair right.
I don't know what's going on with that. I think he has a new haircut though. I think last time I seen him, he has it like slicked back or something. It's not so much of the bowl cut. But yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. Fans give him, a lot of. You would think with all that money that somebody in Vegas can make it look right, and I agree. But I guess when you have all that money, you don't really need to care what you look like, right?
I guess this is true.
I don't think he really cares, right? I mean, the dude drives around in a Prius with all that money, so I don't. Yeah,
Does he really?
Yeah, a Prius
Yeah,
and somebody said a minivan. They seen him driving before that was like a little van or something. So
I mean, that makes sense with his haircut.
That's why he has so much money, and that's why it kind of fits, right? Kind of
weirdo
fits, so.
owners, dude. Hey, so Bush Raiders going off on about AOC. I wonder what that's all about. You guys have you got Kirk Cousins and Fernando Mendoza in the building. Like, why are we talking about AOC, Bush? Help me out here, buddy.
And AOC did it under dysfunction. It's starting.
You have two much better quarterbacks. Well, I mean, I guess we don't know anything about Mendoza yet.
Oh, well, I know what he's talking about. It's because, right, I'm a big Aiden O'Connell fan. I've been, that guy. People call me an Aiden O'Connell stan in Raider Nation, and, it is what it is. But my whole point with Aiden O'Connell has been you had a quarterback that was 5-4 in his rookie year, threw 9 touchdowns, 1 interception in his last 6 games. That's elite numbers for a rookie drafted in the 4th round to be a 3rd string all through camp. Yeah. Come in halfway through the season. Your first game, you get sacked 7 times by the same player in Khalil Mack, and then
I remember that.
and then the next game, your first pass is a touchdown. 20-yard dart.
So wait, what is Kubiak saying? Like, I'm just
they keep in all the media things lately, they keep saying, Fernando Mendoza and Kirk Cousins, right? That's the question asked. Yeah. Nobody's bringing up Aiden O'Connell. Okay. But it started before Fernando was even mentioned, like, what's it with Kirk Cousins in the building and how you think he's going to work with Fernando? And Spytek said, don't forget about Aiden O'Connell.
Well, I can see this.
Right? He's played a lot of football. He's beat the Broncos. He's beat the Chiefs twice. Right? He's beat the Chargers. Put up 4 touchdowns in the first half on the Chargers defense. I mean, that's pretty good numbers, right? So the kid.
I can see him being like the number 2 with Mendoza.
Well, that's the thing right now. He's number 2. He's working with the 2s. Mendoza's working with the 3s and the rookies. Yeah. But Raider Nations, is all flipping out because they keep every time they ask him a question, it's about Fernando and Kirk Cousins, and whether it's Spytek or Kubiak. Kubiak said that 4 or 5 times since he's been on the team. And nobody's brought up Aiden O'Connell. He just says, don't forget about Aiden O'Connell. And his thing is, Aiden O'Connell's very smart, has been through some tough situations, 6-7 offensive coordinator. He's going on his 7th offensive coordinator, going into his 4th year in the NFL, right? So there's a lot of teams that, even Spytek said, the kid's played a lot of good football. If you look at his record, he's, 8-9. He's got in 17 games that he started, if you total all his numbers, almost 4,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. I mean, that's football. That's a dude that can.
But in what scheme, games, right? But in what scheme and with who and against who? Yeah, it's all context matters.
Yeah, but I get it. You look at the coaching that he had, though, right? Look at how bad the team was, the offensive line. Aiden O'Connell is actually
all of this,
but he's also
never going to see the field.
Oh, I know. It's all about
never. But see the field. Bush Raider.
So that's what he's talking about.
Raiders Rebel. Like, I get it. You guys are high on this dude. And he'll probably be Mendoza's backup next year, after Kirk Cousins is probably gone. But like, he's going to be a preseason, and if anything happens, like, I thought he was decent too. Like, I always laughed about him because he came in with that nice mustache. I was like, hell yeah, look at this guy. He looks like a fucking
good
Raider.
Football. Like, he knows football. But anyways, my point is that Clint Kubiak keeps coming out and saying, look, Aiden O'Connell, is impressing me. Like, I've been impressed since I've gotten the building with his knowledge, his work ethic, the way he doesn't put his head down, how many different offensive coordinators, how much football he knows in his 3rd year.
Somebody say that we thought he could be a starter somewhere?
Yeah. And, I broke down on my channel the other day. If you look at next gen stats, right? If you look at passes 10 to 20 yards in the NFL, right? They have the average was like
your intermediate pass?
89% or whatever,
Yeah.
but they have the chart of, 5-10 yards, scrimmage yards. Aiden O'Connell is elite in 3 different categories on that. Elite. That's where the average is like 80 to 5, and he's in the hundreds or
So do you think he could
or
be trade
90s.
bait potentially?
So yeah, I don't know if it's trade bait, but I think the kid can play. And then Max Crosby on his podcast yesterday, Brogan said, "What do you think about the battle with with Kirk Cousins and Fernando Mendoza? How's that working out?" And he said, "First off, I want to say, Aiden O'Connell's impressed me too. He's played a lot of football.
Well, now I'm getting my tinfoil hat on, dude. Because
now you got Spy Tech, and then to top it all off, Kirk Cousins is asked about Aiden O'Connell, and he said, "I'm really, really impressed with Aiden O'Connell. I think his best football is in front of him. The guy comes in, he's impressed with me. He's helping me, also helping Fernando Mendoza. Like, he knows a lot of football." He said, "I've been around a lot of different quarterbacks in my span with 3 different teams, and Aiden O'Connell is different. He impresses me with his football knowledge, the way he can read defense, the way he studies film." And so, they're just putting that out there, and Raider Nation is losing their mind because you drafted a quarterback number 1 overall, and now all of a sudden you got this guy that was drafted 4th round that should have probably been playing since his rookie year. I mean, to be honest, he was better than Gardner Minshew. He showed it when he was out there. He was better than Geno Smith. He showed it when he was out there. He was better than Brian Hoyer, who's played a lot of football. He was better than Jimmy G, who's been to a Super Bowl. And they just kept shuffling the kid to the back. And now you have coaches that know football, right? You have a guy in Clint Kubiak that knows ball, and other coaches in the building, right? You have Mike McCoy, the assistant head coach, and you have the quarterback coach, Mike Sullivan, that they brought in, right? All these guys are saying the same thing. Man, Aiden O'Connell is very impressive. This kid, they're asking, like, how is this dude? And why did we draft the 1st round? That's what I'm getting. They're like, man, like, we come in and we're learning that this kid's been sitting on the bench for how long? Basically, they're like, man, the kid has a good arm, good work ethic, very intelligent. And I've been saying his whole career, like, it seems like if you look at his next gen stats, his time to throw the ball, time to quick release or whatever, time to throw, it's 2.67. That's 3rd in the NFL in his throughout his career. That's pretty good. That's a quick release. That's a kid that makes smart decisions. That tells me, he reads pre-snap reads. He reads defense as well. And, his stats show. So everybody hates on Aiden O'Connell because, oh, well, look at his record. What games has he won? Like, and you brought it up. Look what he did against the Chargers. He's also 6-1. Okay, wait, 7-1 because he won against the Chargers, against the Chiefs last year. So he's 7-1 when the Raiders rush for 100 yards when he's the starting quarterback or more in a game. And it would be 8-0 if it wasn't for that botched snap in Kansas City where he threw 340 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the only player to throw for more than 300 yards against that defense that year when they went to the Super Bowl.
So it sounds like he's getting railroaded due to money and draft position. He's just been, that's what happens in the NFL. You don't get to see what you have in the building when you bring in a new offensive coordinator. Like a decade.
Well,
guys get shuffled to the back no matter how good they are, and that's what they're doing right now. There's another element to it as well. They're doing that to Jordan Meredith too, because Jordan Meredith 2 years ago was the 5th highest rated guard in the NFL. They bring in a new regime. They put him at center, and he wasn't there. And now this new regime comes in and they have him as the backup center when he's not a center. He's played good football, but so they're a new regime. They're looking at what they did last year. They don't care what he did 2 years ago, right? They're not going back that far and watching film. So these guys get shuffled to the back every time you bring in a new regime, and it's happened to a lot of good players in this organization because we can't keep a coach for more than a year.
Right. No, that's a great point. Maybe they debut Aiden, and they're hyping him up because maybe they're probably actually trying to do the kid a solid and get him a starting job somewhere in the future.
Yeah.
If he's this good, because, instead of just having him ride, be number 2, because that's probably what he's going to be, number 2, unless something happens to Mendoza. You don't draft Mendoza. I mean, who knows? Or Kubiak's like, look, we got 3 good quarterbacks this year.
What they've been saying all year. Like, they're all super impressed with the building. He was like,
so Rebel, I got a question for you.
the way they're feeding
on
off
the
each
same
other.
note. Got a question for you. Actually, DZ and Rebel, I got a question for you. So Russell Wilson had some decent years in Seattle. Was never really like always seen as the reason, but had some
He had like
decent years.
4 really good years, dude.
Really good years.
No, but
Stellar
he was
years.
never seen as the reason for winning because of the quality of the defense that was there for in most years, if we're going to be honest.
We're going off of recency bias on him, dude. Like he had like I said, he had 4 years in Seattle where he was damn near elite.
And that
And
defense
then-
was elite too. So,
but
they were the
he
Legion
was
of
elite,
Doom,
and the defense was also elite at the same time, right? And then
which
when the
made him
defense,
better.
and then when the defense tapered down, Russ wasn't able to maintain.
Well, then Russ got goofy, unlimited, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, exactly. But Rebel, my point there, aside from kind of bringing it back to the Broncos a little bit, is to look at the Raiders organization and AOC. I've always said this, and by the way, I made similar comments about Bo Nix as well. Okay, so I'm an equal opportunist when I critique things like this. Bo Nix has had some phenomenal statistics. He's also got a great winning percentage, good touchdown to interception ratio, generally speaking. Certainly a great winning percentage. I mean, that's undeniable at this point in the NFL. However, I will also say that he has not really been the reason why certain guys have elevated their play. He has never been the dude that's taken like the average wide receiver and made him above average or elite as an example. Okay. And that's a trait that the top tier quarterbacks in the NFL have. I think that it's a fair comment to say that Peyton Manning took average wide receivers and made them look Pro Bowl caliber. I think it's a fair statement to say that Tom Brady did the same thing when he was with the Patriots. I think it's a fair thing to say Aaron Rodgers has done that with a fair number of wide receivers with the Green Bay Packers. And I also think it's fair to say that Ben Roethlisberger did the same thing with wide receivers like that when he was in Pittsburgh. Now, we have all these great sample sizes of these quarterbacks that took average dudes and made them look better. A guy like Aiden O'Connell, because he is modestly limited in terms of what he can do on the field in terms of his tools and skill set. I'm not saying he's limited. I'm saying he's got a ceiling to certain areas of and aspects of his game. You need him to be the reason why you win, and you need him to be the reason why certain guys are elevated in their game. I'm not sure that this. I am sure, but he had great stats, but he never elevated players. Even if it was just one or two, he never elevated them.
Trey Tucker was much better when he came in and starting as a rookie, and the games that he played in when Gardner Minshew was not in. So he elevated that. Michael Mayer stats went to double and tripled when Aiden O'Connell was in the game. The running game was way better with Aiden O'Connell in the game. They rushed for 100 yards. Almost, all of his starts that he won pretty much. So he has elevated a lot of players on that team, really. And Brock Bowers, his numbers are even better. Jacoby Myers' numbers were better with Aiden O'Connell on the field. So for the upper management to see this and allow these coaches to come in and just push this young man to the back, it's just a travesty, man. It's just a travesty because
throughout the league,
and then he made a comment. He made the first comment I've ever heard Aiden O'Connell talk like this in this last interview. He said, well, I look at guys like Sam Darnold and how they were stuck in bad organizations pretty much. He said they're stuck stuck with on not so good teams, and then they go somewhere else. And they get to start and play and show that they can play be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And he said, I'm hoping that I get that here, but if not, I hope it's somewhere else. So now you have a kid that's his agents are saying, bro, they keep doing this to you. Let's move on, right? Let's move on. You're in your last year of your contract. You know, it would be stupid, in my opinion, for let this kid walk out of the building because you don't know what you have in Fernando Mendoza. And my analogy is going to be, look at the Minnesota Vikings, right? Look at the Minnesota Vikings, right? They got rid of Darnold, and they thought J.J. McCarthy was their guy.
And now look
they're
who they
bringing
have.
in another guy. Now
I have
J.J.
a better
McCarthy,
analogy for you.
You could say, oh, he was drafted 7th
You
or
have
8th,
one of
and
the
one was
worst,
drafted first. But you have
deep throwing guys now too, and Justin Jefferson's probably livid now. Kyler Murray there.
Yeah. So
my God.
You didn't
Rebel.
let.
I think one of the best
develop
analogies for you is the what used to be the Redskins or the Commanders now. You remember they had RG3. No, they had RG3. Yeah. I think that's a great That's a great analogy, right?
Wasn't ready back then, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's the same thing, and I've seen that with this organization my whole life. You just you bring in a new coach, and the guys that you drafted never get a chance to develop, but then they go somewhere else, and they might not be starters, they might not be all pros, but they're guys that contribute, and they're solid depth pieces. Which we could use that for the last 10 years. You could look at any season and be like, man, I wish we had more depth at this position, right? So yeah, I think that the guys just get shuffled around, and then when you have bad offensive coaching, and if you're telling me that Luke Getsy wasn't bad offensive coordinator, then why did he get fired in 6 games, right? if the Turners that came in and took over for Luke Getsy did such a great job, then why did they get released, and why did we go get another new head coordinator in Chip Kelly the following year? And why was he fired in 6 games? because you're playing guys that you're just putting in position, right? Last year they brought in Alex Kappa, right? JPJ will move you over. Okay, I think
everybody saw that was going to be a bad signing.
Then you bring in Forsythe. When you had Charles Grant, a 3rd round rookie, which on a bad team would be a great ample opportunity to get your young blood out there and see what he has. You drafted him in the 3rd round to be the backup and the Aaron Parent to Colton Miller. When you're having a losing record, you bring in your guy. But no, they went and got Stone Forsythe because he played with them in Seattle, and they put Stone Forsythe in there and was absolutely horrible every single game but one. But they kept him out there, and they didn't one time until the last maybe 2 games of the season be like, okay, well, let's put Aiden O'Connell out here and let's change the whole entire line and put all our 2nd and 3rd string in there against the Chiefs, and then Aiden O'Connell go out there and do what he does, win us a game, right? So the kids
Rebel
over.
I was looking at Aiden's Wikipedia because I forgot, I blinked where he went to college. Purdue. Was he on the team for 6 years? Did he redshirt 2 years?
Yeah. Yep, he was an 8th string quarterback. Then the following year he moved up to like 6th, and then it took him like 3 years before he even got.
He was climbing up.
So he was, he started at the bottom, worked his way to the top. Because
was he a walk-on at Purdue?
I think he was drafted. I think he was. I don't think he was a walk-on, but yeah, he was. Bottom of the totem pole. He was 8th man the first year. Then the second year, somebody got hurt and he kind of moved up, and then I think he got to play towards the end of that year, and they were like, wait. This kid could actually throw the football, and he's smart. He makes good decisions. He's decisive, and that everybody knows what it takes to play quarterback. Mainly, is you got to have it up here. You got to you got to know everybody's job. You got to
actually Bush Rader's comment right here. I highlighted earlier. I can actually see this happening, especially this year 1 with Mendoza.
It could be Aiden, Fernando 2, Kirk Cousins, who has been falling off the last 2 years terribly after week trenching. And I've said that on my channel all year long. I said that there's, in a perfect world,
the media would have a shitstorm with it. Though.
Oh yeah, we would be all over the news.
I am here for that.
Raider
fans.
I
want.
They would just be like, "What are they doing?" It would be.
There's so many Raider content creators that would probably quit their channel because if Aiden O'Connell got to start, it's that
Mandalorian needs to be starting.
I don't understand it. Like, this kid has done nothing to get hate, and their main thing is, well, he had 68 yards against the Chiefs, but we won that game. They didn't score any points against the Vikings. That Vikings defense was pretty solid. They made it to the playoffs with Sam Darnold the following year. So, their talks are irrelevant. Anytime you bring up AOC, it's like,
Daniel Jones.
So now he's going to be
guy.
a Hall of Famer. Like, how do we jump from a guy that should be playing because he's better than the guys in the building? So people saying he's a Hall of Famer, right? It's crazy in the nation. So
you have me thinking about bad quarterbacks who got drafted. Daniel Jones just popped in my head. And
Daniel Jones, right? And these are first round guys. This is a fourth round pick that we're talking about. And then you look at who drafted him, right? Josh McDaniels, one of the best offensive minds in football. So Josh McDaniels drafted him thinking, hey, this guy could be somebody. I don't think he drafted him thinking he could be a backup, right? Because they had Jimmy G coming off of the Achilles injury, and then they had Brian Hoyer. So obviously,
Rebel,
he could be the future.
Rebel, this is a super unpopular opinion in Broncos country, and I'm sure an equally unpopular opinion in Raiders Nation. But bear with me as I say this aloud. Josh McDaniels is actually a very, very gifted scouter of talent.
Yeah.
He may actually be one of the worst head coaches ever in the NFL, and that might not even be close. But if you
maybe
look
Antonio
at
Pierce, but
I think Josh McDaniels says, "Here, hold my beer." But the long and the short of it is that when you look at what Josh McDaniels left my Broncos with after he was done, he couldn't coach the roster worth crap. But when you look at what the actual roster that he left behind did in terms of success, the roster was actually very good. Like very, very good.
I've been saying that about the Raiders too.
And I think the Raiders are probably in a similar position, right? I think he left your roster in actually a very good position. But I think that you guys just brought in the wrong coaches to coach the players you had. Yeah.
Richie, you said Josh McDaniels might have been one of the worst. I was like, hold my beer. Chargers have Adam Gase on staff. And I don't know if you guys remember Adam Gase. That dude was like.
I'll hold the beer for that one. I'll hold your beer for that.
Go away. And that guy literally didn't have a job, wasn't in the NFL. And somebody, I think Mike McDaniel, called this dude and was like, hey, do you kind of want to come work with me? And everybody was like, oh my God, keep this guy away. So he's on our staff. I mean,
no, Adam Gase. So but hear me out. Adam Gase is wicked smart.
He is, but
he is wicked smart.
Head coaching wise.
No, he is wicked smart. He is awful at coaching, and he is awful at relaying that information to anybody that is not at his level in terms of like football IQ, because he can't adapt what he wants. He's just a pure IQ guy and an absolute dummy.
And then the Raiders have Mike McCoy on staff too. Rebel, the visor dude.
Yeah.
So that guy's bounced around. He was on the Broncos. He was the Chargers head coach. Like there's dude, this is like just a fraternity.
Yeah, they have Joe DeCamillis. I mean, they have a lot of head coaches.
I'm like thinking
of a lot of guys that have been, and these are head coaches that have coached with these guys on other teams. They're not just bringing in guys and saying, hey, you need to learn this guy, right? They kind of know their tendencies, and they know, and the guys that don't, the other guy have been like, well, I worked with him, and it's kind of a group thing. So there's for the first time in a long time, it just feels like this team could actually surprise a lot of people. And I said that last time I was on here, but you just look at the roster and the moves they made and the money they spent. It's been well spent. It's been, and then you get a coach that's coming in and he's tidying up the ship, so to say, right? There's no slacking. There's no slacking in this team, and it's bringing everybody together. Putting it on the players to be coaches out there. It's bringing everybody together and making them tighter. And we all know that if you look at past Super Bowl teams, what does everybody say, right? We are a brotherhood, right? It was everybody is you're there. I got your back. I'll die for you, right? And if you get that in the building, it's hard to beat teams like that are well coached.
I was gonna say trenches, but I like the brotherhood answer.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I was like thinking Super Bowls, and I was like thinking of the last guys that have all won, and I'm like, damn, they all had good O lines and good D lines.
Yeah, and they were all tight knit.
Yeah,
right? Offense, defense, like they hung out together, they did things together.
Speaking of trench play,
Oh,
I think this
I
is
got to go eat some electronics.
The
We're
big
back.
Okay.
uglies.
That's exactly where I was going with here.
The big
What
uglies.
is the bite strength required to
Raider,
attempt to-
Rebel, can you eat a cell phone by any chance?
Hell no, my teeth are jacked up. I think about every one of them about loose and ready to fall out of my head, so I'm not biting on anything nowadays.
So this is as good a time as any to transition to my outside linebacker on my Denver Broncos, which is Jonathan Cooper, that has come out on this particular story since the initial story broke. Raiders Rebel, did you follow this story at all? Did you have any information, or am I giving it all new to you now?
Anytime any teams in the AFC West are in trouble, I'm all over it.
Okay, so did you jumped all over the Jonathan Cooper news? Then is what you're telling me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for those in the chat and those that are joining us after the fact, let's break this down. So, Jonathan Cooper is an outside linebacker from my Denver Broncos.
Really good.
He's a very good one too.
Damn good one.
I think he's averaged 8 sacks last 3 seasons.
Golly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, 7th round draft pick. Read him weep.
8 sacks. 8 sacks a season?
Yeah, I think he's averaged 8 sacks like the
Average
last
8 sacks
years.
a season.
Man, I hope we get that out of Cody Walker and the Kobe Dean this year. Damn.
So, anyways, guys,
Quiddy pay somebody.
the dude is a legit. He is legitimately a stud in the outside linebacker position. Okay.
God, I think so.
He is on a second contract. We signed him and Benito to really team-friendly deals. They are both like well outplaying their team-friendly deals at the outside linebacker position. Jonathan Cooper had his longtime girlfriend, significant other, whatever you want to call her, come over to his house. And let's just say she thought she was at least privy to the fact that there may or may not have been at least one other woman in his life. Okay, we'll just kind of, there may or may not have been more than one woman in his life.
No,
it's crazy. I mean, the dude is wealthy, athletic, good-looking young dude. It's just crazy how all of a sudden, like, these young women would throw themselves at him. Who would have thought
that?
Yeah. No one saw that coming, man. Right. But anyway, so, and let's also not forget, he's like wicked jacked.
It's kind of like a brick shit house.
Yeah. so like, yeah. Wonder how that happened. Anyway. So his girlfriend came over and basically wasn't too pleased the fact that she believed that he had been with another woman. And she demanded, she basically pushed him out of the way, tried to grab his phone. He wasn't too pleased about that, told her to leave. She refused. He then
beat the hell out of her.
No, he grabbed her arm and ripped his phone out of her hand and said, "I want you out of my house immediately." Right. She refused to get out of his house. He then said, "If you're not going to get out of my house, I am going to break your phone." Now, key thing here. Most people, when they think breaking phones, they think someone's going to throw it across the room, smash it with a hammer, run it over with a car. The normal things that one might think someone might use to break a phone with. No. Jonathan Cooper said, "I have a better idea. I'm going to bite the thing in half. Like, I'm literally going to bite through your iPhone." Okay? And he actually bit into her iPhone. He actually damaged and broke her iPhone with his freaking teeth. Now,
that's insane,
all of the circumstances aside. It was her phone. It was her phone.
Bones.
Okay. Now, I have so many questions.
Me too.
Okay. So many questions. Okay.
My first team runs like an iPhone, where like iPhone play this year against the Chiefs or Broncos. Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. So, Actually, what the play should be called is bitten iPhone on 20. Bitten
Steve
iPhone on 20.
Jobs.
Yeah,
iPhone.
yeah. Steve phones. Jobs iPhone on
Yeah.
20. Go bite. Anyways, it'd be hilarious. But anyways, Jonathan Cooper literally bit her phone and physically damaged it. Now, my questions are this. Was alcohol involved? Were drugs involved? Were both of them smashed? And my last one here is like, what is the actual biting force required to break an iPhone like that?
Depends on the model too, but it depends on the model because like I think the new ones are aluminum frame. But that's still glass, dude. You're still biting through glass.
You have to have jaws like a pit bull.
Well, no, because so like I have
you gotta be a pit bull, bro. How
what's
you
the
bite
latest
through
iPhone is a 17.
metal iPhone.
I think the latest iPhone is a 17. Anybody in the chat correct me? I could be wrong.
I think they're up to
maybe 17. 17.
So I have a 15, and that has a titanium frame. And then I think the 17s all have aluminum. So it depends. Like, look, dude, if he's biting through a 15 titanium shatterproof glass or whatever, freaking animal, man. What a savage they've got in Denver. But look, we've seen his play on the field. The guy's a freaking stud. I don't know. I think it was a nothing burger. I was kind of low-key hoping it was going to be something more, but it just sounds like two young and dumb people just fighting, and she was probably upset that he's banging other chicks.
Oh yeah.
Put it plainly.
You know how jealous those women are.
Yeah. So,
but that's some crazy jaw power to bite into a phone. But the worst thing in all of this, so he's not going to miss a lot of games. It's not going to be nothing.
Oh, there's probably nothing. But then I think like,
damn it,
there's a lot of players that have been getting. Oh, i17 Pro Max. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Pro Max is the
Faded Raider. That's aluminum frame, right? Anyways,
yeah, the 17 Pro Max is the top end iPhone, which is the big iPhone, the brand new one. Yeah,
I have the 15. What's the 17 have? Damn.
I still got a 12.
I had the 10 forever. Anyways, but kind of like I think this is a nothing burger, Richie. Like I low key, I was like, oh, here we go. But I don't really want to get in league wide, but it just shows that like, these NFL guys just stupid decisions, right? And I don't think his was stupid. I think it's just because it could happen to any of us, right? But it was enough to have the police called. I don't know who called the police. Was
but no, they were both arrested.
Right.
And by the way, to be clear, they were both charged with assault. Both of them were charged with assault.
So how do you get assault for biting a phone? You had to put your hands on somebody.
No. She ripped the phone out of his hands and pushed and hit him. So she got charged with assault for her. It was basically assault and battery effectively. And then he ripped he admitted, and this may come back to bite him a little bit, but he admitted to basically holding her arm to pull his phone back because he was retrieving his property. Now, I suspect that the reason why he was charged, even though it could be seen as like a form of, say, like self-defense or a good Samaritan, I'm getting my property back, whatever those laws are, wherever he was. The problem is that she's probably like 5'4" and like a Bill 15, and he's like literally like something in that range, right? And he's like, I don't know, like 6'3", 245. Like the dude is enormous compared to her, and so it's the same thing that I get told when I walk into a room. I'm 6'2" and 250.
He is. Let's see. I'm looking up Jonathan Cooper.
Yeah, you're pretty big yourself. Be out there with them Broncos.
He's 6'4", 257.
Right, but that's my point.
257 pounds, man.
But that's my point, though. Like he's a big dude, right? He's a big dude, and so the problem is that when you walk into a room and you add on the suit that has padded shoulders or whatever it is, and the whole deal, you're literally looking like a brick shit house, right? You know what I mean? Like it is like,
yeah. That's And probably he's big enough to, I mean, if he's big enough to bite her phone and break it, he could probably just grab her arm and break that too as well, just squeezing it. Like,
Dude, did he drop in the draft because of a medical thing?
Yes, he did. A heart problem.
Yeah,
Heart
atrial
problem.
fibrillation or whatever. Fibrillation. So that's why
AFib.
he dropped because of that.
Yeah, they
He
got
was probably going to
steal
second
on that
round.
one.
Second round. He was a second round draft pick if he didn't have AFib, and he had AFib. And by the way, AFib can be solved by a single procedure, which fixes like 60 to 80% of AFib cases.
Really?
And I believe he went through the AFib treatment, and he is now completely normal.
So
he went to the 7th round. There's a totally treatable option for his condition, and every other team in the NFL was like, meh.
So that kind of brings me to something with the Rebels is their 4th round cornerback pick with the knee deal. Like if they could figure out a way with him and extend his playing career, like that'd be another just massive steal of the draft. Because I mean, Jonathan Cooper plays way better than I know 7th round, but I'm like, there's no effing way. So that makes sense now. We've talked about it a long time ago. I just didn't remember.
And DZ, the other guy on my team that Broncos country is completely ignoring, I mentioned him 2 or 3 times on the show, Johnny Walker, outside linebacker, my Denver Broncos. He dropped in the draft as well for some medical issues as well. But he played at a level that should have had him somewhere in the 2nd or 3rd round as an outside linebacker as well.
This year we had
he's your 4th string depth, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's right.
Sure.
But kind of along those lines, but we don't know how he's going to be. But we drafted Isaiah World, who was projected to be a 2nd round pick this year if he didn't tear his ACL. And so we'll see what he's like next year. But
man, I'm looking at this Broncos roster, and that's just nasty. Jeez.
Yeah, they got some dudes on that team.
Golly, you got Sutton and you got Waddle. Then you got
which is weird because
you got Troy Franklin. I mean, that's pretty. Golly,
we talked about we've talked about the Broncos the wide receiver room, and then the fact that they might be running more 22 personnel this year. I'm like, what? How does this? It doesn't make sense, but I guess whatever. Why not?
I mean, their tight ends. They have Evan Ingram and then Adam Troutman.
Justin Jolly is going to take over for Ingram, I believe.
I don't even know who he is, but y'all got Jolly Justin as well.
Is it Jolly Justin or Justin Jolly?
I think it's Justin. I think it's Justin Jolly.
Justin Jolly.
So here's my prediction. I've already said this on the show. Here's my prediction.
There was a lot of people that were high on him, and
right.
Yep.
So here's my prediction for the Broncos tight end room, just to quickly close this off, but I want to get back to Cooper after this. I think Troutman gets cut outright. That's a $9 million cap hit.
Really?
I think that the Broncos, as it stands right now, I think that they are seeing the ascension of Caleb Lohner, who is going to be too good to ignore. And he's going to be back for preseason. I think he's going to have some amazing games in preseason. He's going to be blocking and catching passes and all that kind of stuff. He's a former basketball player, 6'7", 265, 275, somewhere in that range there. He is an absolute – he has apparently come out and just blown the socks off of the coaching staff in terms of what he's done in the offseason.
They got him listed last on your depth chart behind 6 other offensive, 6 other tight ends.
Right. But they've been calling him out in multiple meetings. So you know how your comments are about AOC? That guy for the Broncos has actually been Caleb Lohner. So in my opinion, I think what you're going to end up seeing is Adam Troutman get cut. I think you're going to see, Adam Troutman or Evan Ingram get cut, one or the two or the other. And then I think you're going to end up with Caleb Lohner making the roster. If I had my druthers, I would actually prefer to see Evan Ingram get cut.
Which one's the best blocker?
Oh, the best blocker on the team, in my opinion, is Nate Atkins. And it might not even be close.
I mean, if that was the case, if I'm the Broncos, just knowing what I know about Justin Jolly, I'd just go with that youth. If Atkins is your best blocker, you can have him with Jolly and that Caleb Lohner. That's solid, and then you free up a whole bunch of money.
No, you're going to keep, in my opinion, you're going to have at least 4. You're going to have Justin Joly. You're going to have Dallin Bentley, who's another guy who's a rookie, who is he is a beast. He's an absolute beast. You're going to have Nate Atkins just because he's too good not to have on the team as a blocker combo guy.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have Troutman, in my opinion. So you're going to have 4 tight ends on the roster. You're going to have guys that can play in all of those combo positions.
I doubt it. I think it's 3, and then your fullback. Your fullback.
We had 4. No, we had 4. We had 4 tight ends last year.
But now you have an additional wide receiver this year, and you're going to keep that same wide receiver room. So something's got to give.
Unless you get rid of one of those guys.
I think we're going to do what we did in the 53-man roster. Is I think the coaching staff is going to think that we're going to have at least one injury. And I think Prentice, sure. I think Prentice will get cut. Now he is my favorite fullback in the NFL, by the way, for the record. But I think he's going to be trying to be stashed
over the homeboy in the Ravens. The Ravens fullback.
Yes. No, I'm telling you right now, when you watch Prentice play, he is an animal. He is a legit animal.
That's the only fullback I see on your roster.
Yeah.
Usually only teams. I mean, we have Alec Ingold, which I think.
But Rebel, just kind of to close out the fullback tight end piece. Dallin Bentley played fullback and tight end in college. Atkins is a fullback and tight end hybrid. So we got both of those guys already on our roster. And again, when you have versatility like that within positional groups and that sorts of things. I just think the Broncos are going to value the potential pass catching ability. Now, the problem is Prentice is also very good at catching the football. I don't mean like good. I mean very good.
You're going to need that guy in there if you're going to that wide zone offense. That fullback that can catch out of the backfield is going to be massive for that offense.
So I didn't realize Patrick Ricard went and followed Harbaugh to the Giants, but the reason I'm so high on him because we're all gonna have fullbacks just due to our schemes, right? Because
Connor Hayward, baby.
Outside zone. Yep.
Patrick Ricard is 6'3", 300 pounds, and he's got abs. That's why I'm like that dude is special. So if you're so high on Prentice, we'll see. We shall see.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, it could be Troutman and Ingram that get cut potentially, depending on where the coaching staff sit, because the Broncos, in my opinion, are going to be trying to aim to be a more explosive, more potent offense, and they're going to want guys that can do more than drop the ball and not play up to their potential.
Do more than drop the ball.
The clapback on Ingram. So devil's advocate on Ingram though. With more offenses kind of copying, especially with the Rams, the twin tight end sets, he might prove himself to be invaluable. You know what I mean? Where they're I don't know about getting rid of him. Maybe one of these lesser guys, we retain him on the practice squad kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my point with Ingram, though, is if Loner is on the ascension,
sure,
as a versatile, nimble, tall guy. Here, let's put it this way. The height difference between Loner...
He's the 6'6" guy, right? Caleb Loner?
6'7".
6'7".
Oh, damn. Oh, shit. Yeah, you need him out there. You put him in the backfield. Just let him be that other offensive lineman.
With his wingspan alone, plus his height, just being at 6'7", that puts him in a very unique category on the field in terms of your pass-catching options.
Yeah.
And if he is truly taking the leaps that the coaching staff are claiming that he has taken, which I have no reason to believe is not true, then and if he has the nimbleness that they're claiming that he still has with his athletic ability, which I have no reason to believe that the coaching staff is actually lying, then he would be a better version for us than Evan Ingram because his upside, We saw Evan Ingram last year in the Sean Payton offense.
It wasn't
he was not good, right? And so
it was good for me.
So if Caleb Lohner is already where Evan Ingram was last year, at least, if not even better, and he's got nothing but upside in terms of his play and his potential. I'm sorry, I'm going with upside potential and a dude that's put in the work and shown progression over a veteran that did not do much for us. And he had his shot. Like, it's not like
he is 31 too. So
yeah, it's not like Evan Ingram did not have his opportunities. Evan Ingram was given his opportunities in the Broncos offense. The difference is he just blew it.
Yeah,
literally he blew it. He was awful.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
if they get better tight end play, that makes that offense, so much better. But like I was saying, last time I was on, is they just got to figure out that consistency in the beginning of the games, and
he only had one touchdown with you guys,
and not depend on the defense, and then Bo Nix to make some magic to get him in a chance to win the game. And I think that's how almost 100%. The whole season went last year.
100%. So, now, Caleb Lohner has got four passes in college, and 4 of them were touchdowns. All of them were in the red zone. All of them were in like perfect 100%. You also have Justin Jolly on the team that we drafted, who is a contested catch nightmare in the college ranks. Like, he was that was his claim to fame, which was, if it's me and another guy, I am winning that battle for the ball. And so when you combine Caleb Lohner and his height and his ascension in terms of his projection where he's at this year, and you have Justin Jolly, who is a young tight end that's got contested catchability, Rebel, as you kind of said there, the Broncos had an issue with the tight end group last year where we struggled having those contested catches, red zone threats, etc. Well, if we got 2 dudes on the roster now that can then replace, say, Evan Ingram and Troutman, for example, between the 2 of them, well, I would say that the Broncos are in a way better spot from a tight end room perspective in terms of where we're at, both in terms of long-term upside and also short-term benefit.
What do you think about the Pittsburgh tight end that you got? What's that, UDFA, right? Lucas Kroll? He's what, 6'6", 260? Like, I think y'all seen what we had over there in the Raiders with Brock Bowers, and they're like, we need to go get some tight ends because you got 6 on the roster right now. That's crazy. I think we're only got
Kroll has been our team for 3 years.
Oh, for 3 years?
He has shown some modest progression each of those 3 years, to his credit. However, he has not taken the proper leap required in order for me or anybody else, for that matter, if I'm going to be honest, to say yes.
So this is probably his last hoorah in orange, in the orange and blue.
Yeah, he really needed to kind of do something last year, and he failed.
I was going through some tight ends. I was looking up at Evan Ingram, pretty piss poor stat wise, but he could have been low man. I mean, look, could have just not fit in. And I was looking at Justin Jolly, and then I just decided, I was like, oh, let me look up, because I was looking at sizes, right? And I looked up David Njoku, who's with us. So he's 6'4" average, right? 6'10" wingspan. Mm-hmm. So 6 extra inches out. Like, he's just, I was like, geez Louises. I'm probably the opposite. I'm probably like, you know what I mean? Like, just, like a penguin out the alligator arms. And Mayer I saw something that probably pissed you off, Rebel. I think Mayer's going into a contract year, right?
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, I could see Kelsey retiring, the Chiefs signing Mayer over, and I was like, oh God, please don't do this crap.
That would be a nightmare, because if anybody knows how to use Michael Mayer, it'd be Andy Reid, right? You look at what he did with Kelsey. He's a guy that's built.
They've got some good
built
tight ends
like a linebacker. He's not. He doesn't really look like a tight end. Gray is still very
good
right?
on that team though too.
Yeah, they've got some.
Gray's a good guy.
Yeah, Noah Gray's he's fine, but. They're still going to need help over there. And I I really thought the Chiefs would have drafted Kenyon Sadiq in the first round, and
Yeah.
looking at his that 4.3 speed, and I was like, man, why would you not go get a tight end to try to compete with what we got, and what with what y'all both of y'all are trying to do, the same thing is that make that tight end position super strong and hard to cover, right? Because if you're a mismatch for the corners, right, you're a mismatch for linebackers. You don't have the speed, so. Yeah, I think the tight end group is evolving, and I think the Chiefs would have been nasty, and I'm so glad they didn't. But I really thought Kenyon Sadiq would have been a perfect fit for Patrick Mahomes over there to finally have a tight end that could stretch the field.
They did draft a rookie tight end. I don't know anything about him. John Michael Gillenborg, 6'5", 251, rookie out of Wyoming. Yeah,
he's an inline blocker type guy, so he's the guy that's I think going to be there to help them in that run game as Mahomes is kind of getting his sea legs under him, as it were.
But they also have
Jake
Bringingstall,
yeah,
6'6", 240. So they got some guys that kind of saw a little bit of other. But yeah, I think you're right, Richie. Noah Gray's probably the next guy in line unless they sign somebody. Or I mean, look, Trey. Who else I'm seeing? Trey Watson, Jared Wiley. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, you got. I mean, Jared Wiley's 6'6", 249. So
yeah,
I don't see much of his stats. Not much play time when you have Kelsey on the other side,
right?
In front of you. You're not getting on the field much.
Guys, I did want to bring it back to Jonathan Cooper to get your general consensus on this, because the league has been generally inconsistent on these types of situations. And I have covered this on the show. I've had, DZ, I think we've been fairly fortunate to have some pretty solid guests on the show here over the years as well. I know you've been a fan of the show, but then also now on the show for a little bit now. And the show itself has had some pretty interesting guests, including former NFL refs. We've had a couple other guys that have kind of give us some league insight, and a few other podcasters that have had some other insight from their sources through various cities, some of them closer to the NFL HQ than our respective teams. But I just wanted to kind of get your general feedback on this. I am normally a hardliner on these sorts of things, but I do think that we are beginning to live in a slightly different world when it comes to how, we'll call it, the fairer sex handles themselves. And I think that needs to be accounted for in circumstances on a case-by-case basis. So what I'm kind of getting at here is, like, in a case where someone assaults you, if you're doing what appears to be, in this case, to be kind of minimal self-defense, like it's not like he simply sat there, beat her down to the ground, and like sent her to the hospital or something. And by the way, to be clear, Cooper is definitely big enough and strong enough to have sent her to the ER. Okay? This is probably this is beyond
probably one hit. Probably one hit would have caved in her face like the Cabbage Patch Kids.
So exactly. So the point here is that given the circumstances and given the accounts on both sides of the spectrum here, Cooper admitted to basically laying hands on to obtain his property back, and then basically then restraining himself, which the police officers and the general consensus on the reports say that any injuries or any basically like markings and stuff are actually favoring Cooper's recantation of events as opposed to his hopefully.
Richie, I think it bodes well. It sounds kind of stupid to say this, but I think it bodes well that both got arrested, right?
It does.
It shows that it's like, because everybody's wanting to assume, right? Like the man did this. Like recent examples were, it was Ariza, the Chiefs punter, and then you had the Dodgers pitcher Bauer, who I mean, his career was destroyed, absolutely destroyed. Why he hasn't sued the MLB, I have no clue. But then Ariza finally got cleared up. But you're tarnished, right? So this wasn't that case, but everybody's really quick to judge. You know what I mean? Like Rams left tackle just got arrested for like some sort of assault, and we don't know that seems really serious.
Yes.
But with this Cooper thing, once you read into the story, especially what TMZ put out first, it was a nothing burger. I was like, okay, this is two dummies fighting over a phone. He didn't want to see who's texting somebody or whatnot. And the law enforcement was like, look, you guys are stupid. You're both getting arrested for putting hands on each other. And that's probably where it's going to go. But
I agree.
From a league standpoint, Richie, I don't think anything should happen. I don't think any discipline. I think this is handled outside. But I think from a broader scale, the league doesn't do a good job punishing or making examples of players because I think it's money, right? These days, I think we all grew up in an era, Rebel maybe, that we used to look up to these players as role models, right? Kind of thing. And I don't think that's the case anymore. And then it's like a double-edged sword. They expect them to be this way, but then they don't get punished. People are playing. They're like, let's let the courts handle this, right? And then you get my gist. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't believe we're dealing with the celebrity culture like we used to when we were growing up as kids. I think that's completely true. I think that's completely gone. I think that is thankfully a thing of the past. Which is actually probably not a bad thing, because if you see what these celebrities are doing behind closed doors, it's actually pretty despicable in most cases.
I don't think you could show that.
Yeah, this is a family-friendly show, and even in the adult content, some of the crap that these people do is faux pas. You know what I mean? Like, it is bad. Yeah. And so the whole point here is that as far as issues go in the NFL, Jonathan Cooper's scenario here is basically a quarrel, and not even a major one at that. Like, this is not a big guy goes after significant other because he's drunk and angry. This is mutual destruction on both people's part. And frankly, if I'm going to be honest, from the outside looking in, and I'm trying to avoid the orange and blue glasses here, but I do think it's a relatively fair assumption and approach here. When you're dealing with a football player and you're dealing with someone who is that strong, and I mean truly that strong, like you said, Raiders Rebel, one or two punches and that woman is knocked out cold and in the ER, right? Like, it is done and over. And for someone who is that testosterone riddled, given the profession that he is in, I think that he showed enormous restraint given circumstances, and literally held himself back to such an extent that there should almost be credit given the circumstances between the two parties, because it would be easy enough for him to say, I was attacked first, therefore I defended myself. And even the modest amount of force that I used, which relatively speaking would have probably sent her to the hospital, did not require any hospitalization. He literally just took his phone back and both parties walked away, largely unscathed from the situation.
Yeah, I'm gonna spin it a little differently. I think it's unfortunate for NFL football players that they get caught up with these women that, want to act like they're big enough to put their hands on them. Because didn't you say she was beating on him, punching on him, pushing on him?
Yes, she was. Yeah.
And the man restrained himself, and all he was trying to do. And I wasn't there, but it sounds like the man was just trying to get his phone and leave the situation where he was put in a harmful situation. And I'm sure nothing she did hurt him, or really mattered. But it's the point that these women that just to think that you can go beat on this giant dude and there's going to be no repercussions and nothing's going to happen. Not all men are and shout out to Cooper for having the restraints, but not all dudes would do that, as we've seen in the NFL, right, the NBA, the MLB. and everywhere else, right? Like this is not a normal thing where guys can restrain themselves when a woman's taking actions and beating and punching on them. And I think it's unfortunate that, you know, it tarnishes his career, just the fact that he's getting arrested and having charges brought, when really it was, I mean, yeah, you grabbed her arm, okay, and I'm sure there was probably some kind of little red mark because he's a huge giant man, but he was trying to get his phone. Like she should have never taken the phone from the man in the first place, right? And sure the hell shouldn't have been putting hands on somebody. So I think she should definitely have you know, more implications to it than he should. I think she should have, you know, more severe consequences, because, you know, that's assault. And if the dude wants to push charges, you know, he can. And, you know, I guess she could push, you know, assault charges as well. But I think it'd be thrown out of court that, you know, basically you're trying to get back your property. And if somebody's, you know, whatever, waving it around or swinging it around, and you should have the right to be able to get your property and try to leave a situation where somebody's putting hands on you. So I think it's unfortunate for these players to get caught up with these baddies and put themselves in some of these situations.
Yeah, I also think that it's an unfortunate situation overall, where this also highlights how important it is when you're in the spotlight and you are in your second contract in the NFL, where you are making more money than most people will see in their entire lifetime times 10 or more, that you make sure that you treat and find the right person to have in your life to be that significant other, that kind of steady person and steady partner in your life, or wife in this case. Potentially this is his girlfriend, but again, ultimately you're looking for that wife to kind of be by your side long term. And I think it's very, very important that Cooper be very, very cautious and very, very careful, where, you know, Cooper, other NFL players, those sorts of things, like you need to think twice. You need to make sure that you are armed with the right tools to ensure that you find the right people to be with you throughout your journey in the NFL, because number one, the NFL is not forever. And then number two, you know, you don't want to find yourself in Cooper's position where, you know, maybe he probably wasn't in a position in his life where he was ready to settle down. So maybe, just maybe, a long-term girlfriend, not the best idea, John. You know what I mean? Like let's not do that, shall we? Like, you have to be in the right headspace to have a long-term partner and be faithful to her and do the right things and all that sort of stuff.
And just think how bad it could have went. Like just say, and it didn't happen, but as big as he is and as small as she is, you know, what if he grabbed her arm and couldn't get the phone or something, and, you know, turned or twisted and pulled or something, you know, like she falls down, hits her head, or, you know, rips her shoulder out of socket or anything stupid, then it's a serious problem, right? And then you're probably getting, you know, some kind of felony charges, which is, you know, in some situations, like we were talking about, you know, the baseball players earlier, could end your whole career.
Yep, 100%. So I generally agree with this scenario. Like, each one of these scenarios needs to be assessed on their merits and also given the exact circumstances that are there. As far as NFL problems go, the actual physical element of this particular case is certainly less concerning than many of the others that we have seen in recency within the NFL. Now, that does not change the fact that I still have so many questions about why on earth you would choose to try to bite through an iPhone with your teeth. Like, I'm sorry, like there is a multitude of things that are crossing my mind. Biting down and attempting to go clear through an iPhone would not even make the top 10. So
I don't think he wanted somebody seeing what was on the phone. I mean,
no, it was her phone, not his.
Or yeah, I don't know.
Like,
who knows?
So
yeah,
so
I'm sure
again,
that's what. Yeah, he was trying to get his phone. If he grabbed her and took his phone, but
he got his phone back apparently because he just basically took it, which again should be a shock to nobody. Like, the dude's enormous. And then he wanted her out of the house because she was acting a certain kind of way and he wanted no part of it. And what ended up happening is that she was refusing to leave because this is basically the long and the like, kind of as I understood it, she wanted her answers and she wanted them now. And he was just like, get out of my house. Entitled. It was, so he's like, dude, get out of my house. I want no part of this. Just leave. She was refusing. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to break your phone if you don't leave. And she still refused to leave. So he bit through her phone.
Did they ever release a picture of her?
So in those situations, though, you gotta be smarter than that and just, call 911, bro. Like, you got your phone back, right? You said you got a phone back. Why bite hers and grab it and bite and break her phone to get some kind of charges? It would have been so much easier to not escalate the situation and just been like, look, if you don't leave, I'm gonna call the cops because you already put your hands on me. And then, you don't have to press charges, but then she's gone. This is not in the news. I mean, it's in the news or the media probably, but not as much if you don't go to jail, right? So I think the fact that, him going to jail, but it's so much smarter to not even, she was in his house and, she's demanding answers, which is crazy because you're not married. Like, the dude, like, who even knows? He might have just met her the night before. We don't know. Like, it could have been a weak relationship. It's the NFL, right? These guys.
She's got those crazy eyes.
She was a 2-year relationship.
Oh, we'll see. Okay, that's a little different then. That's
Richie.
She's in a multi-year
crazy eyes. She's
but you messing with the the women are. I'm not gonna lie. Some of them could be a little psycho, bro. You could be a little crazy. You gotta pick and choose. But in those situations, man, you just sometimes I ain't never called the cops in my life. But if I was in a situation where I was making millions of dollars a season, and and so it was either you got to go or call the cops. Like, it's sometimes it's just better. I would have just left, walked outside, called the cops. Like, man, she won't get out of my house. Like, and have them remove her. It's just sometimes these situations could be very, very easily, sidestepped than having it in national media.
Yeah, like this is one of those unique scenarios where I kind of agree with the general sentiment here, which is there has been nothing that has come out in this case so far that has made me say, okay, Cooper did something that is so beyond reproach that, like, he needs to be, like, aggressively disciplined. Like, this is not a Tyreek Hill situation. This is not a Ray Rice situation, for example. This is not one of those cases, from what I can tell. This was a kind of mutual destruction piece, and actually, this is another piece here as well. I do agree, Kingy. I think this is correct. I think he probably's got some video cameras in his home. I would not be surprised if at least a portion of this incident has been caught on camera. Remember, he's an NFL player. He's going to protect himself in his home, right? And, it is what it is. But it'll be interesting to see what comes out. It'll be interesting to see if Cooper's recantation aligns or matches for whatever reason. Like, you know what I mean? If it, like, matches up with what was said. And then what'll be even more interesting here, because this could actually start changing the tone of some of these cases potentially, as an example, is if Cooper's recantation turns out to be correct based on evidence, like video evidence, and her recantation turns out to be inaccurate or untruthful, this could be one of the first cases in these NFL scenarios where the NFL player is maybe not fully vindicated, but at least mostly vindicated, if that's the case. And it could start changing the public opinion of these sorts of scenarios to, wait for evidence, wait and see, maybe hold back before you pass judgment, those sorts of things, which, let's be honest, look at that MLB player, DZ, that you mentioned before.
Trevor Bauer.
Trevor Bauer. He went through years of what could only be described as hell.
I think he's even, like, he wants to play baseball so bad. Like, he's even, like, saying he would play for free, stuff like that.
It's like, just let me play. That's messed up,
He's
right?
played in Japan. I think he's played in like
God.
I want to say Mexico. I'm not 100, but
Yeah.
the dude was made out to be such a monster. Everybody was like, this guy's a POS, this, that, and the other. And he kept fighting, and come to find out that chick was just completely
Lying,
crazy, lying.
Not only does she lie, but I know this case. I actually know this case quite well.
God.
I'm fairly plugged into like the legal community, as you know. But like not only does she lie, which she did actually quite clearly, but she actually planned this.
Yes.
Happen. Like it wasn't just she lied; it was she planned the scenario.
And
they still had the text message, and they still threw the like it's.
But no, and the thing is like you would think like you would think that the league would be like, hey, well, we'll apologize because he's still. I don't know if he still is to this day and age that we're talking about, but he was a great pitcher. They're still like he was blackballed from the league. From the freaking league, from playing the game.
The MLB, what they did, and this is so dirty in my opinion, they publicly shunned him from the MLB. And then when it was shown that he was completely vindicated of all issues and all charges and all whatever, the MLB quietly removed his ban, but never publicly released an apology or a statement or anything like that. So
that's garbage, dude.
They publicly,
I would have sued the hell out of them.
Yeah, they basically publicly flipped the bird at him, but then they didn't publicly apologize for doing the wrong thing. So
how does he not how does nobody tell this dude that you need to go get a lawyer and sue them? Like that they tarnished your career,
sure
they slandered your name. Like
I believe that from my understanding, and you guys can look this up.
Article about him.
I believe that he has gone back to the MLB with the threat of a lawsuit, and it is my understanding, maybe I'm wrong, but it's my understanding from when I was looking into this that there was a settlement. Now, I know a little bit about the law. What typically happens in settlement cases is you basically have to sign what's called a non-disparagement clause, which basically means that you're not going to slander the other party.
Yeah.
And if you slander the other party, then you end up with a penalty on the award that you were given as a part of the settlement there.
Okay.
And my gut is telling me that he got a good portion, if not all, of his contract handed back to him as a result of.
There's an article there's a Fox News article from not too long ago.
Yes.
And he's playing like minor league ball right now in the States. There's teams that have like contacted him, the whole nine, like agents and everything, say, hey, we're good, and we'll contact you in a few days, and nothing happens. I think it's the top MLB who's shutting this down.
Yep.
Like, nope, sorry, he's blacklisted or whatever.
The top MLB does not want him to come back into the league to have a redemption arc, is the actual answer.
That's probably what's going on.
If he comes back for a redemption arc, which he will, by the way, because he is an elite level pitcher. He
just threw a no-hitter. I know, yes, it was minor league, but, you know.
How could you not take that dude? That sounds like a perfect pickup for my Dodgers. I mean, that's
who he came from. He was with the Dodgers.
Well, then, yeah, they're probably not going to take him back. But damn, this sounds like a perfect scenario. Funny, it was the Dodgers, right?
Yeah, he was a longtime Dodger, and
he was a top tier pitcher at the Dodgers. He was an excellent pitcher. He was basically on the ascension, one of those like elite level talents, and then this ruined his career. But this is just a good example as to why, the law, and specifically in the U.S. law, why it's innocent until proven guilty. You need to ensure that the actual evidence comes out to show that what you're being accused of is actually
this was prime
accurate.
Me Too movement, wasn't it?
Yes.
Wasn't this happening? Yeah. So, good.
Yeah. So, anyways, all of these things happen with the Broncos. We have Jonathan Cooper. Jonathan Cooper, went through this thing. It'll be very interesting. Trial date has been set. I believe it's just before minicamp, if I'm not mistaken, when his trial is set to be going live. I will obviously be following that. But at the end of the day, I expect there to be some variation of Cooper being basically charged with the damage plus maybe a little bit extra just because he's got some money. And then the charges being dropped from his general assault charges because it will be seen as self-defense. And then I believe that the ex-girlfriend, Cooper will basically say, if you're going to force these charges on me, then I want you charged with assault. And then he will basically force her to be charged with physical assault on him as a protectionary measure so that he's not seen as the aggressor. And then he will also force a restraining order on her and likely some kind of order to vacate, which is all of your things must be collected from a mutually neutral location that I drop off your stuff at, some agreed upon spot. You pick it up, you sign off. We never see each other again. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I think his lawyers are going to have it thrown out unless they can prove that there was, visible marks because if he grabbed her. It is assault, right? Even though you're taking your phone and it's your phone, it's still, you put your hands on somebody and he is an NFL player. So their lawyers are going to push for that no matter what, just because that's the way they're going to get their money. But I'm sure his lawyers will have it thrown out unless there's bruising or something on her arm or something crazy just because of how hard he grabbed her and his size and physical strength. But other than that, I think it'll get thrown out for him, and I don't see it being definitely a problem with the season or anything like that. And then if he does have to miss a game just because of the league policy violation or whatever it is, I don't know what it is. If you have to miss a mandatory game just because you are convicted of a crime, I think it is. You might have to miss one game, but if it is, I got Jonah Ellis behind him, so it's not like it's not like it's a big thing if it's a game, right?
No, they don't have Jonah Ellis behind him. They have
good point.
There's that too. So they have they have Dondre Tillman. Can one of you guys look up Dondre Tillman's production last year? Just I have a rough idea of what it was.
I don't know. They have it listed on our lads roster as him on the right side behind Nick Benito.
No, that's fine. But look at
Cooper. I got him.
Look at Dondre Tillman's production.
Dude, he was at the USFL. Oh, I got a fun stat. I forgot to tell you, Richie. Hang on. So 2 games played, or regular season. I was looking at, 17 games, 41 combined tackles, 13 solo, 28 assisted, 4 sacks, 3 tackles. Dude, what a fantastic role player. 2 interceptions. He had 2 interceptions, dude. Wow.
Yep.
Awesome. And then look at in the
Raiders Rebel, that's our backup. That's our backup.
That's 9 tackles. Yeah, dude, fantastic.
Good for you.
There was a stat that was it's kind of goofy, funny. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Former Denver Broncos first-round pick, member Paxton Lynch.
Set a record, man. Set a record. Set a record.
He's the first and only quarterback to ever be benched in the NFL, CFL, XFL, and UFL. He's got a record. He made records for something, man.
Yeah.
That's messed up, bro. That's you. Damn.
Yeah, but
I was never a fan, by the way.
You've been benched in every league. That's God.
By the way, he was an Elway pick.
I think it's time to find
Tillman or Paxton.
Find a new career.
Well, that explains it, probably, right?
Wow, that's rough.
Elway was a damn good guy, but it seems like everything off the field, organizationally wise, was a hot mess with him.
Elway had a problem. Elway needed to be the guy.
Yeah.
And
most quarterbacks do.
Right, but I agree. I truly agree. And in the backup quarterback role, those guys are used to try to being part of the team because that's how they ingratiate themselves with their teammates and get themselves to stay on the roster and that sort of thing. Whereas the star quarterbacks like Elway and some of these other guys, they don't need to concern themselves with that kind of stuff because they're just so vaunted within the organization that they just need to show up basically, and they're treated a certain kind of way. So, in my opinion, the problem with Elway was that he didn't have a specific vision for the team, and he approached whatever vision he did have without discipline. And, it's unfortunate, but I think it's true. And by the way, to be clear, for all of Broncos country, because I know this is also being broadcast on the MHRT network, which is obviously a Denver sports channel, etc. That's not to knock his ability on the football field. Elway is an all-time great Denver Bronco, frankly, an all-time great NFL quarterback. Yeah. And that's not even really up for discussion. He is in the upper tier. He truly is. But I also think that you need to be honest if you're in Broncos country and simply say there's Elway on the football field, and then there was Elway as a front office general manager, vice president, football operations, etc. The guy on the field, elite, forever in Canton, deserves all the accolades, etc., etc. The front office version that was Elway left much to be desired, and I think you need to be able to separate the two.
Yo, so let's switch gears for a minute. Let me ask y'all a question. I feel like we're leaving the Kansas City Chiefs out every week, which I really don't care. But I'm looking at their roster. Golly, man, I didn't know they had so many nice UDFAs and draft picks. I wasn't really paying attention. What do y'all think about their roster? My Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, I haven't really looked at them in a while.
My main question, though, is I'm looking at – I forgot they got Garrett Nussmeier, right? LSU, decent quarterback. But when you end up with an Andy Reid, right, I wouldn't be surprised if Fields continues the trajectory that he's been on, which everywhere he goes. What do y'all think? You think maybe Garrett Nussmeier could – somehow beat out Justin Fields if Patrick Mahomes is not ready day one?
Yes.
I do feel that way too. I think the kid's a baller.
Look, the long and the short of it is this. There is a great difference and a huge difference. I mean, as in the Grand Canyon difference in terms of distance between dude showing up during OTAs and some other things like that, and the dude being able to go out on an NFL field with a guy like Jordan Davis breaking through the center, coming up to Patrick Mahomes and say, I have 350 pounds coming at you and I'm going to kill you. Okay? We're not in the same ballpark when we're having these discussions is the long and the short of it, right? I think that's fair, right? I'm not speaking so far out of left field that it doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is a great, if not elite level quarterback until proven otherwise long-term in the NFL. Now, he's struggled the last 2 years or 3 years. That's also factually accurate if you're looking at statistics in terms of
I hope it continues.
What he's been the last 2 seasons in the NFL. Okay, but that is very much besides the point, though. The point ultimately is that he hasn't had enough down years for me to then negate his really good years, because his really good years, by the way, to be clear, were scary good.
Yep.
Okay.
I just hope that we're not sleeping on them, and they're going to come back next year or this season. I mean. And just be what they were a couple years ago, which I would find that. I mean, they very well could be really good next year, especially with some of their additions. I like their drafts, who they drafted, but I'm not the rest of the division. Like just one up too, like got really good. So,
but did we do enough? Because they were bad because they didn't have Patrick Mahomes most of the year, and if he's ready year one, you add receivers like Andrew Armstrong, Jeff Caldwell, that speed, the size, what he's got, ran a 4.3, I do believe, Caldwell.
Oh, I didn't look at that receiver.
Yeah, I think Caldwell ran a 4.3 at 40 time, and
I was looking at mostly their defensive
I think he's like
additions.
6'4", and then
they brought back L'Jarius Sneed too, right?
They brought in and then they brought Sneed.
Oh no, he was bringing up some good details. Hopefully he comes back in and joins us. But the look, I think his point is well taken, though. The Chiefs did bring in a lot of great talent to bolster their roster. I think that is undeniable. I think they did some good stuff, and I think they're well coached.
I'm gonna have to dive into it more.
I think they're well coached. However, I think there's some big issues there. Number one, has the team been built the right way? Are they building with an actual vision, or are they trying to basically throw pasta on the wall to address specific issues with guys that they think fit, but don't actually mesh well with the team? I think that's a fair comment to make, right? How many teams have we seen in the NFL? Welcome back, Rebel. Hope everything's all right.
I got booted. I don't know what happened.
You just kind of spun out and timed out and left.
Yeah, that's everything just started spinning, and I don't know what happened.
But so Rebel, where I'm getting at with this is that the Chiefs, I think, have the potential of being a good team, but the question is, are they building with the same purpose? So here's the thing, right? You're looking at what the Raiders have done this year, and they are building in a specific direction. You're starting to see some cohesiveness in terms of the direction that the Raiders are building their team in. You're seeing guys that seemingly fit a zone scheme. You're seeing guys that seemingly fit a team style of play. Now, Andy Reid has typically been a little bit of a free spirit, as it were. And if we're going to be honest, we've seen Andy Reid excel and then basically plummet almost at every team that he's ever been with. So the question now is, has Andy Reid finally learned his lesson? Are the Kansas City Chiefs building with purpose again? Or are they simply saying, I need guys with tools. Here's the tools I need. And then running out and grabbing them? Because we all know, by the way, Philadelphia Eagles, if we remember that team.
Yeah, they stacked the roster. And then
they stacked the roster and they sucked. And it basically set them back for a good number of years as a result. So the long and the short of it is, it's not just building a roster with talent that you think could work. You need to build a roster with talent that meshes properly together to ensure that the team is pulling the rope and steering the ship all in the same direction.
I feel like they did a good job of that looking at this draft and the UDFAs they brought in. They shored up the rushing the passer, which is a big problem for them. They definitely shored up their run game, bringing in Walker and Ott. Why am I talking about the Chiefs? This doesn't feel right. And then Caldwell, I think, could be one of those guys, right? 6'4".
I think was it their O-line and running game offensively were their biggest issues before Mahomes got hurt.
Well,
you can say
O-line was a big problem.
Receivers, you went and got all that speed, and none of them are consistent.
Tyquan Thornton, Jalen Royals, Rashid Rice.
There's a lot of those guys. They just, they're not consistent. They have big games, and then they have bad games, or they'll have tip balls that end up in interceptions, and they haven't really helped them. They went and got all these guys that run 4.3s, but they haven't. It hasn't really helped them unless the running game's working, the defense is working, and you have Patrick Mahomes. And last year that they had none of that. It seemed like they had no run game at all whatsoever, and that's been a shock because usually with Pacheco and other pieces around them, they still have better run games than the Raiders have had, without those big guys. So now they went and spent money on the run game, and I think that it could be, it could work, but it could not work, right?
I do not care about what money they spent on the running backs at all, actually. I don't. Okay. The thing with the run game for me is the run game is the engine that requires an offensive line in order to run it. So you can have all the running backs or horses in the stable in the running back room, as it were, and that's fine and good. But guess what? If your offensive line can't unlock the doors of the stable and allow those horses to run wild throughout the pasture, it makes zero difference at all. Because if I have Kenneth Walker that is met by Jordan Davis in the backfield because the offensive line can't block their way out of a wet paper bag, it is literally irrelevant.
Dude, I think they brought in.
Does not matter.
I want to say they've brought in like 2 or 3 rookie running backs, and they also brought in Amari DiMercado too, who I totally forgot about.
And then they brought in our Mason Thomas, and that.
Well, I'm just talking running back wise, right?
Running back wise, yeah. They went and filled both sides for the first time in a long time. Is what I was getting at, is because they usually drafted in a 30.
They actually had the capital to do it this time.
Yeah, this year they had 2 first-round picks, right? So they went and retooled.
Was it got Peter Woods
really quick? Yeah, really.
Peter
quick.
Woods and our Mason Thomas, and they did pretty good. I think they're retooling essentially.
Right, but
scheme-wise,
Mahomes got hurt. He got hurt because a guy was able to get in the backfield and hurt him.
I think they got a backup plan for that. I think if he's not ready to rock right away, they're going to lean on the run game.
I don't care about that. The point is, in order for the run game to work, you need to have shored up your offensive line. And
I get that.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's no surprise on this. By the way, I know. Unleashed, you've been on here the show twice. My shtick is defensive line and offensive line, and basically everything else on the team runs off of those 2 engines, right? Like,
yes, 100%.
It literally makes no difference if you have a great wide receiver room. If your quarterback can't throw the damn ball because he's getting hit, that doesn't matter. Like, it literally doesn't matter at all. And so the point being with the Chiefs is that Mahomes was able to get himself killed because his offensive line didn't protect him properly, and he got hurt as a result. It was also the reason why the Chiefs were struggling even in the early stages of the season before Mahomes got hurt, is because he wasn't able to have the time he needed to throw the football in order to even start making plays, to start to position things a certain way, to open up the left side by throwing, overthrowing to the right, and having the run game maybe run aggressively to the left, but then opening up the passing game on the right because the other team's expecting a run and they throw a pass instead. You can't do anything if you can't have blocking and you can't start setting up the chess pieces or the chess plays as the game goes on. You just can't do it. It is not possible. The Chiefs, not this past year, but the year before and the year before that, when the Chiefs were actually competitive and they won Super Bowls, they went out and got offensive linemen to protect Mahomes, and they spent money on it. This past year, they had rookies that were blocking for Mahomes, and those rookies did not live up to the bill in order to properly protect Mahomes and keep him off of his keister.
I thought they screwed themselves, letting a couple guys go and getting traded, or
they did
whatever, free agency, and I'm like,
they did.
I mean, that's your number one priority is Mahomes, man, and they still have a top 5. I don't know. I mean, some would argue the top 5 Creed Humphrey, a center in the league. So I think he's number 2 in pay behind Rebels guy Linderbaum.
Behind Linderbaum,
yes.
But other than that, they have Trey Smith on the right side, and then they have Joshua Simmons, which I think they're banking on because
they lost their guards last year.
Their depth isn't really nothing. I mean, I don't even know who Issa Pohl is or CJ Hansen, right? I don't know. So their depth doesn't seem like it's a lot. And then I'm looking at the guys they brought in, and they didn't draft any offensive linemen. So maybe they feel pretty secure in developing the guys they have, because they brought in 3 UDFAs. They brought in a left guard in Khalil Benson. They brought in a center, in Pete Nigra, and then a right guard at Josh Thompson. And all 3 of those are listed as, third string right now. So maybe they're hoping one of those pop. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. Their offensive line has to protect Patrick Mahomes, and Kenneth Walker is not going to have the year he had in Seattle in a Kubiak system. I think they're, who is their offensive coordinator right now?
Andy Reid. Oh no. Well, they brought back the enemy.
Plays, but
they brought back the enemy.
Okay, so that's going to change the run game, but I don't know if that changes the offensive line and the blocking scheme, right? Like you said, they're trying to go to that outside wide zone.
It makes them more disciplined, but the problem it makes them more disciplined. But the problem is that even with Bieniemy and his disciplinary tactics and his very you must do A, B, C, and D kind of attitude to things, which, by the way, that's exactly who he is. Like, it is well known at this point in the NFL that he's a details guy. Andy Reid is the pie in the sky guy. Bieniemy's the details guy. And that's why they work so well together, is because you have Andy Reid that's got these bright ideas, and then Bieniemy's like, yeah, but you kind of need to execute them. And so you end up with both of these guys that are kind of counterbalancing one another. And you need both of those types of brains in the room in order to make things work. But that's very much besides the point. Bieniemy is now coming back after multiple years away from this team, and the offensive line and the linemen that he has helping protect Patrick Mahomes, they're not the same. They're not the same dudes. And
not
so
even close.
There's
they
a
had
legitimate
a top 10 offensive line then.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a legitimate shot that Bieniemy's coming into a bit of a lion's den here, where he's basically now going to be pounding the table in the offseason to say, if you guys actually want to win games, start spending some money on the offensive line and stop complaining.
But their offense, their offensive line over the years hasn't really been great, right? Patrick Mahomes gets the ball out pretty fast. They don't really go through a whole bunch of long routes, right? They brought in all these fast receivers, and they basically just used them to stretch the field. But if you look at Patrick Mahomes, right, if you look at his next gen stats and where he throws the ball, it's not a lot of passes over 20 yards, right?
It's dink and dunk, dude.
Yeah, it's dink and dunk. He's that, those short passes, get
it
guys
went like
on slants,
this.
get guys moving and switching and change of direction and use your angles. And I think that's what they do very, very well, and they get the ball out fast. So the run game is going to struggle if those, but I think they have more of a run blocking offensive line than a pass game. And if Patrick Mahomes is healthy, if not, you do have Justin Fields back there, and he could definitely move around and make plays with his legs. And maybe they rely on that for the first couple of games, but their offensive line has never had to be super good, right? They can get away with having a top 15 or 16 offensive line, which they have many times, and still make the playoffs and still be very solid just because of Patrick Mahomes' escapability. But then you have that question of how much ability is he going to have lateral movement side to side or rolling out of the pocket right away. So they have questions, definitely.
100%.
And then their defense, though. But their defense, they revamped the hell out of this defense. I'm looking at R. Mason Thomas, Peter Woods. They went and got
trench wise. They needed
Cyrus Tonga, right? They brought
this is probably Chris Jones's last season, I would think.
They brought Snead back, and they have him behind.
They lost
Noah
two
Williams.
really good cornerbacks, but then bringing back with Jarius Snead, that's solid. That's a really good move.
Yeah, right now they have him as as a backup, so they're always they always bring in.
It's not going to be easy to get in the playoffs this year, man.
No, it's not.
This is going to be
not
a hard season.
Not in our division. I think our division between the Broncos defense, and we don't know what the Raiders is going to be, right? But the way everything's starting to look in camp and come together, and they're at least having a structure to build from, because right, you can't build a foundation on sand, bro. You gotta have a solid foundation. So they're putting that together first, and then we'll go from there. But man, I'm looking at our defense, and because that's what I've been doing. I've been talking most of this time is going through all of our rosters, and for the first time in a long time, I can actually say I'm not looking at any of the other 3 teams rosters in the AFC West going, man, we don't have a chance. we just don't have a chance. And it's been like that for a couple of years. Looking at the coaching in the building and the depth that we've had and the players that we've brought in and the money we've spent for just player after player after player that has done nothing when they come here to help us out, and then getting rid of all the guys that start to develop into something. You let them walk in free agency. And the last 2 years letting some of the guys walk, I was like, man, it's going to take forever to rebuild it. But shout out to John Spytek and Clint Kubiak. They've done it excellent job of making it where the AFC West is going to be what it used to be. I think it's going to be competitive, and there's nobody going to, I don't think go 0-4 in this division or 0-6, whatever it is in this division.
No, I agree. I actually think this is going to be, I think the Raiders will start to split with some of our teams just because they're going to be well matched. I think that the Broncos and the Chargers, in fairness, I think are going to basically still be fighting for the top spot in the division this year. Just like their coaching, I just think is their coaching and coaching staff have just had longer with the rosters to get them to a better spot. It's just a simple math point at this point.
Yes.
The Chiefs are unknown to me.
And then the Chiefs are a big question mark because
I hope like me personally, I'm not sleeping on them. Like I still think, we'll see, but I mean, I don't know.
I think the Chiefs are going to do better in certain games than we think they're going to, but I also think that the problem is that Mahomes, I do think, is going to look. It's just a simple fact. I have done damage to my body and had to go back on a playing field. The long and the short of it is, in the early stages of your injury, your body is going to actually fail you because of the injury, and it's going to get fatigued real quick, and it's going to be quite painful, and you're not going to be able to do certain things that you're going to try to be able to do. The question is, can he hide it enough that it's not going to negatively impact him? I'm not convinced that that is in fact the case. Honestly, I'm not convinced that that's the case. But we do need to end it here, guys, just because of the timing here of the show. Frankly, there's enough news within our division and stuff that we could go on for quite some time. But we got an audience to think of and a YouTube algorithm to think of as well as we go through things. But next week, we are working on having one of our joint opponents join the show. We are in talks with 1 or 2 options to bring on. We're going to be bringing them on to talk about each of our individual teams, to speak about how we think we're going to go against them. One of those podcasts is going to be a Dolphins representative, which I think is a really interesting team this year, just given all the changes and ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see where that lands. And we're going to have an opponent on. We'll call it behind enemy territory, because it'll be basically at minimum a 3v1 on the podcast in terms of divisional opponents against them. Great to have them on the show. Again, like all guests on the show, treat them with respect, et cetera, et cetera. Chat, ask them questions, come prepared with questions. Other podcasters that come on the show that do relay over to me, they love the concept of the show, because this is more about football than it is against necessarily being homers for your own teams. And that's a really interesting thing. We obviously have our own biases to our own teams. Yeah. That's why, we're repping the colors and everything else. And, DZ's got the bolt on the chapeau.
I had to throw a little USA pride for the World Cup kicking off here soon.
Yeah. But so when we're looking at this kind of stuff, like we obviously have our own bias, but overall, when you talk about how we're discussing, topics on the show, we're kind of recognizing from a football perspective the strengths and the weaknesses of our respective teams, just because that's how we have to look at this through a lens when we're on a show like this. And I think that's what makes our show a little bit unique compared to other shows out there on the interwebs. But with that in mind, guys, we got a great show for you planned for obviously this week we just had, and next week coming up. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the chat after the fact. Thumbs up, please. That helps us reach other football fans, other AFC West fans of all respective teams, just like you. Raiders Rebels got a channel. You can go find him there on the YouTubes. We also have DZ, who's got his channel, which is posted in the description below. And you can also find his channel here attached to this show live on YouTube. DZ, what's your channel name again?
Bolt Up with DZ.
Go ahead and subscribe and like the video there on his channel as well. I am obviously associated with the MHRT network. We are a Denver sports channel on YouTube. We cover all Denver sports across YouTube, including the Avs, the Broncos, etc. And ladies and gentlemen, until next week, where the West Side is the best side. Peace!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute,